The sterile smell of antiseptic filled the air as Elon Musk walked through the corridors of the prestigious St. Matthew's Hospital. His usual confidence was overshadowed by the weight of the philanthropic event he was there to attend. Today, he wasn't at the hospital to talk about his groundbreaking technologies or the future of space travel. No, this was different. Today, he was there for something far more personal. Elon had always prided himself on his rationality, on the fact that he made decisions based on logic, data, and facts. But here, in the quiet, sterile hallways of St. Matthew's, logic was hard to grasp. As he passed the bustling nurses and doctors, his attention was caught by a strange sight down the hallway ahead. It wasn't the ordinary bustle of hospital staff. It was the hushed whispers and wide eyes that grabbed his attention. A small group of doctors and nurses had gathered around a door, peeking inside, and Elon couldn't help but be intrigued. What was happening in there? Was it a breakthrough surgery? A medical miracle? Or just another one of those stories that would disappear in the quiet halls of a hospital? Curiosity nudged him forward, and he found himself standing beside the small crowd. Just as he was about to ask what was going on, a voice inside the room caught his attention. "He's ready. Let's get started." That voice was calm, composed, yet incredibly out of place. The last thing Elon expected to hear was the voice of a child. He stepped closer, just enough to peek inside the room. His jaw nearly hit the floor. Inside the operating room was not the usual team of skilled surgeons or experienced medical professionals. No, standing confidently at the center of it all was a young child, no older than 7. He was standing beside the operating table, wearing a surgical mask and gloves, preparing to perform surgery on an unconscious patient. Elon blinked, rubbed his eyes, and looked again. There was no mistaking it. A child was about to perform surgery. This couldn't be real. It must have been some kind of trick, an elaborate setup for a documentary, or some kind of viral stunt. But the more he looked, the more it seemed like this child knew exactly what he was doing. How is this possible? Elon muttered to himself, stepping back slightly as the realization slowly dawned on him. A nurse noticed his confusion and walked over. "You're Elon Musk, right?" Elon nodded, his mind still racing. "Yes, but who is that child? What's going on here?" "That's Sam," the nurse replied softly, her eyes filled with both pride and hesitation. He's a medical prodigy. At 7, he's already performing surgeries that would challenge even the best surgeons." Elon's mind raced. A 7-year-old, performing surgery. It seemed impossible, yet there was no denying the skill and focus in Sam's eyes as he prepared for the operation. This wasn't a stunt. This wasn't a hoax. This was real. "Are you telling me this child is actually qualified to do this?" Elon asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "Qualified? Sam is more than qualified," the nurse replied, her voice full of awe. "He's been studying medicine for years, has an IQ that puts most adults to shame, and has already performed successful surgeries under the supervision of some of the world's top surgeons. We've been documenting his progress, and it's nothing short of extraordinary." Elon's mind spun as he tried to process the situation. He had seen many incredible things in his life, but this was different. A child, a prodigy, a 7-year-old with the skills of a seasoned surgeon. His curiosity grew, but so did his skepticism. Could this really be true? Or was there some kind of ulterior motive at play? The door to the operating room opened, and a senior surgeon emerged, wiping sweat from his brow. He saw Elon standing there, his expression one of complete disbelief. "Mr. Musk," the surgeon said, offering a hand. "I'm Dr. Foster. I take it you've met Sam?" "I've seen enough to know I need to speak to someone about this," Elon replied, shaking Dr. Foster's hand. "A child, performing surgery. This is unprecedented." Dr. Foster chuckled softly. "I understand your reaction. Believe me, when I first heard about Sam, I was skeptical too. But after working with him, after seeing his talent firsthand, I can assure you, Sam is unlike any prodigy we've ever seen." Elon's mind was racing. This was too much to process. A 7-year-old child, performing surgery, changing lives. But why hadn't anyone heard about him before? Why wasn't this headline news? "I need to meet him," Elon said, his voice almost urgent. Dr. Foster nodded. Of course. But I warn you, what you're about to witness will challenge everything you know about age, talent, and what's possible. Sam is extraordinary, but this is not something you can easily wrap your mind around. As they walked toward the operating room, Elon's mind couldn't help but churn. He had no idea what he was about to see, but one thing was for certain. This child was going to change everything. What would you think if you saw a 7-year-old performing surgery? Would you trust them? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Would you believe in this kind of talent at such a young age? Elon followed Dr. Foster down the hallway, his mind still reeling from the sight he had just witnessed. They reached the operating room, and Dr. Foster gently knocked before entering. Inside, Sam was standing beside the operating table, adjusting his surgical instruments with the concentration of a seasoned professional. Despite his childlike appearance, there was nothing innocent or unprepared about his presence in this room. Sam looked up as they entered, his eyes bright and focused. "Mr. Musk," he said with a calmness that belied his age. "I've been expecting you." Elon froze. Expecting him? How could a child, someone who could barely tie his own shoes, let alone lead an operation, be expecting him? This was beyond his understanding, and yet there was an undeniable sense of something profound in the air. Dr. Foster smiled, his eyes filled with pride. "Sam, this is Elon Musk, the inventor and entrepreneur. He's heard about you, and he's quite curious about your work." Sam nodded, not missing a beat. "I've read a lot about Mr. Musk. I think what you're doing for the future of humanity is really important. I want to help make the world a better place too." Elon blinked. His entire body went cold at the weight of Sam's words. A 7-year-old, already contemplating his place in the world like this? It was both humbling and disorienting. "You read about me?" Elon stammered. "You're 7. How do you even?" "I can read anything," Sam interrupted, his voice steady but filled with an almost eerie wisdom. "I read medical journals, history books, and scientific papers. I've been studying since I could read, and I've been interested in medicine since I was 4. My brain works differently." Elon's mind raced. This was no ordinary child. He had never encountered anyone like Sam before. Most kids his age were still struggling with basic subjects in school, but Sam was on a whole different level, a level that seemed almost impossible. "How did you even start?" Elon asked, his curiosity overwhelming his skepticism. "Well," Sam began, "it started with an accident. My little sister got really sick when I was 4. No one knew how to help her. I decided I would learn everything I could to save her. I studied everything from anatomy to medicine, and after months of research, I found a treatment that worked. She got better. That's when I knew I wanted to be a doctor." Elon was taken aback. This was not just a story of prodigious talent. It was a story of motivation, of a child driven by a deep love for his family. It wasn't just intelligence that made Sam extraordinary. It was his heart, his compassion. Dr. Foster joined the conversation, his voice filled with admiration. "Sam doesn't just read about medicine. He's already performed surgeries. He's assisted in complex procedures and even saved lives. The kid's abilities are off the charts." Elon turned to Dr. Foster, his skepticism still lingering. "But how is this even possible? A 7-year-old performing surgery? You said he's saved lives. How can you trust him?" Dr. Foster's eyes softened, as if he understood the weight of Elon's disbelief. "We didn't trust him at first, but after his first few simulations, we realized there was something special about Sam. He's not just memorizing facts, he's understanding them on a level that most professionals can't." Elon's mind was spinning. Could this child really be as extraordinary as they were saying? Or was there some other explanation? He had seen brilliant minds in his lifetime, people who could solve complex equations and design the future. But a child performing surgery? This was something else entirely. Sam, as if sensing Elon's hesitation, turned toward him with a smile that was both innocent and knowing. "I know it's hard to believe, but I'm not here to impress anyone. I'm here to help people. I want to save lives." Elon's heart sank as he realized the depth of Sam's conviction. This wasn't just about intelligence or skill. It was about a child with an unshakable sense of purpose. For the first time in a long while, Elon felt his usual certainty begin to falter. This wasn't a typical meeting with someone who was just another genius. This was something much deeper. The possibilities of what Sam could achieve were mind-boggling, and yet here he was, a child who had already surpassed some of the most experienced doctors in the world. Sam's voice broke through Elon's thoughts. "I've been thinking a lot about the future, Mr. Musk. I think we can fix a lot of the problems in healthcare. If we work together, we can change the world." Elon blinked, his surprise giving way to curiosity. "You want to work with me? Why?" "Because you're building the future. And I want to help you," Sam said simply, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Elon didn't know what to say. The idea of collaborating with a 7-year-old prodigy seemed absurd, yet here he was, staring at someone whose potential was limitless. There was a quiet intensity in the room, an unspoken understanding that something incredible was about to unfold. Elon stood in the operating room, still grappling with the surreal reality of the situation. Sam was no longer just a child. He had become a symbol of something much bigger, something Elon couldn't quite put into words. The boy had an unshakable certainty about his purpose, and that purpose seemed to intertwine with Elon's own vision for the future. "All right, Sam," Dr. Foster said, breaking the silence. "It's time. The team is waiting." Sam nodded and walked confidently toward the operating table. His small hands, seemingly too young for such serious work, began adjusting the surgical instruments with a focus that was almost hypnotic. Elon watched as Sam began giving instructions to the nurses, explaining exactly how the procedure would unfold. His voice was calm, steady, and authoritative, so much so that Elon felt the strange urge to listen and obey. The operation was about to begin. As Sam took the lead, Elon couldn't help but observe every detail. The lights overhead cast a bright glow over the sterile room. The monitors beeped softly, tracking the patient's vitals. The air was thick with anticipation, but Sam's presence seemed to calm everyone. Even the experienced surgeons, who would typically dominate such a high-stakes environment, seemed to defer to him. "What are we doing today?" Elon asked, his voice barely above a whisper. His mind was racing with questions, but his instincts told him to keep quiet and watch for now. "A delicate heart surgery," Sam replied without looking up. "The patient's a 40-year-old man with severe coronary artery disease. His chances of survival are low, but we can save him." Elon's eyes widened. A 7-year-old, still a child in so many ways, was about to perform such an intricate and life-threatening surgery. It was beyond comprehension. But then, something changed. The moment Sam began making precise incisions with his tiny hands, Elon felt something shift in the room. There was no hesitation in the way Sam moved. No second-guessing. It was as though this was the most natural thing in the world for him. Every movement was deliberate, calculated. Sam was a master at work. Elon watched, completely transfixed by the scene before him. The boy's expertise was evident in every motion. He directed the surgical team, read the patient's vitals with uncanny precision, and even anticipated problems before they arose. It was like watching someone who had been practicing medicine for decades, yet Sam was still just a child. "How did you get so good at this?" Elon asked, his voice barely audible. Sam didn't look up from his work. "I practiced. I studied every procedure I could get my hands on, learned from the best, and even simulated surgeries using advanced medical technology. It's not just about intelligence. It's about understanding how the body works and trusting your instincts." Elon nodded slowly, still processing the enormity of what he was witnessing. This wasn't just a prodigy. This was a force of nature. Sam wasn't just performing surgery. He was redefining what was possible. The hours seemed to pass in a blur as the surgery progressed. Sam's focus never wavered. The operation was long and complex, but it was flawless. The team worked seamlessly together under Sam's direction, and soon enough, the patient's heart was stabilized. Sam delivered the final steps with the grace of a seasoned surgeon, closing up the incisions with remarkable speed and precision. The team exhaled as the surgery came to a successful end, and Elon felt a wave of disbelief wash over him. This was real. He had just witnessed a miracle performed by a child. The impossible had been achieved. Dr. Foster was the first to break the silence. That's it. Another life saved. Thanks to Sam. Elon didn't know what to say. His mind was still spinning. He had seen some extraordinary things in his life. Space travel, electric cars, artificial intelligence. But this was on a different level. As Sam stepped back from the operating table, wiping his hands on a sterile towel, he turned to Elon with a soft smile. It's not over yet. There's so much more to do. This is just the beginning. Elon stared at him, his thoughts racing. You're saying you're not done? No, Sam said, shaking his head. This is just one step. There are so many people who need help, and I want to be the one to give it to them. With the right technology, the right team, we can make medical miracles happen every day. Elon felt a chill run down his spine. There was a fire in Sam's eyes, an unyielding determination that could not be ignored. This child had a vision, and it was nothing short of revolutionary. So, you want to change the world? Elon asked, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. Sam nodded. Yes, and I need your help to do it. Elon took a deep breath. He wasn't sure what to think anymore. But one thing was clear. Sam wasn't just any child. He was a genius, a visionary, and perhaps, just perhaps, someone who could help him build the future. The sterile smell of the operating room still clung to Elon as he stepped out into the hallway, his mind reeling from what he had just witnessed. He hadn't expected the boy to be so skilled, so confident. Sam was no ordinary child, and the potential he carried was undeniable. Elon could feel a spark of something growing inside him, something that had been missing for years. Purpose. The kind of purpose that came when you realized you were standing on the edge of something monumental. He looked back at the operating room door, his thoughts racing. Sam had just saved a life. And not just any life, but a man who was inches away from death. A 7-year-old had done that. You're thinking too hard, aren't you? A voice broke through his thoughts. Elon turned to see Dr. Foster standing a few feet away, arms crossed, a knowing look on her face. You just saw a miracle, she continued, and you're trying to figure out how it's possible. Well, I'll tell you. It's because Sam is not like other kids. He's special. Elon nodded, but the weight of what he had just seen was still pressing down on him. How did this happen? How did he get so good? Dr. Foster chuckled softly. It's not just talent. It's obsession. Sam doesn't just study medicine. He lives it. He's been practicing since he was 3, watching surgeries, reading medical journals, learning from the best surgeons in the world. We've been doing our part by mentoring him, but honestly, we're just here to guide him. He's already surpassed us in so many ways. Elon stared at her, disbelief still clouding his thoughts. How is that even possible? What makes him think this is something he can do? Dr. Foster's expression grew serious. Because he's been doing it for years. Sam doesn't see limits. He doesn't see barriers. He sees what could be. And right now, what he wants to do is change the way medicine works, bring life-saving procedures to people who can't access them, bring them to the future. Sounds familiar, Elon muttered under his breath, a small smile tugging at his lips. Dr. Foster raised an eyebrow. What's that supposed to mean? Elon turned to face her fully. I've spent my entire life building things that seemed impossible. Electric cars, space travel, even artificial intelligence. I've always believed that we can push the boundaries of what's possible. Maybe Sam is doing the same thing in medicine. You're right, Dr. Foster agreed, her tone thoughtful. Sam doesn't just want to save lives. He wants to redefine what it means to be alive. He believes that with the right technology, we can make healthcare more accessible, more affordable, and ultimately, more efficient. Elon's heart raced. This was it. This was the intersection of technology and healthcare he had been searching for, the key to transforming the world on a scale he had always dreamed of. The potential was endless. He met Dr. Foster's eyes. So, how do we help him? How do we take what he's doing to the next level? Dr. Foster smiled, her eyes gleaming with the same hope that was beginning to light up inside Elon. Well, that's where you come in, Elon. Sam needs the technology to make his vision a reality. We need someone who can push the limits of innovation, someone who isn't afraid to go beyond what's been done before. Elon's mind spun. Sam was already a medical prodigy, but with the right tools, the right technology, they could change everything. The world of medicine could be revolutionized, just as he had done with cars, rockets, and neural interfaces. All right, Elon said, determination building in his chest. Let's do it. That night, as Elon lay in bed, his mind was on fire. He couldn't stop thinking about Sam, about what they could do together. The possibilities seemed endless. And then, a thought struck him. What if we could build a network of medical systems? Something like the Neuralink of healthcare? A system that not only helps diagnose diseases but predicts them? What if we could bring real-time, life-saving surgeries to people anywhere in the world? His mind began to race, but just as quickly, doubts began to creep in. Would the world accept such a massive leap? Would they trust a child to lead the charge? But then he thought about the way Sam had performed that surgery, the way he had commanded the room, and how every action seemed deliberate and precise. Sam was a force. The next day, Elon met with his team of engineers and medical experts. He laid out his vision for a revolutionary new healthcare system, something that would change the way the world thought about medicine. Sam, he realized, wasn't just a child with a gift. He was a partner in this new era of medicine. And together, they could reshape everything. The next few months flew by in a blur of meetings, ideas, and development. Elon worked tirelessly, pushing his team to innovate at a pace they had never imagined. He met with some of the top medical researchers, sharing his idea of combining AI with medical practices to create an entirely new system of healthcare. And through it all, Sam was at the center. With his guidance, Elon's team began to design medical technologies that would change the game. Machines capable of performing surgeries with unparalleled precision, diagnostic tools that could identify diseases before symptoms even appeared, and artificial intelligence that could predict health outcomes based on genetic data. Elon and Sam's partnership quickly became the talk of the medical and tech worlds. People were astounded at the boy's abilities, but even more amazed by the possibilities that Sam and Elon were unlocking together. But as their work progressed, the challenges only grew. The medical industry, with its rigid systems and regulations, was not going to be easy to disrupt. They were going to face resistance, but Elon knew one thing for sure. They had to push forward. They had to create a world where no one would be left behind. Do you believe Sam's technology could be the future of medicine? What do you think it would take for the world to accept such revolutionary changes? Leave a comment below and let us know your thoughts. Would you trust a child to lead the charge in such an important field? It had been a whirlwind of activity since Elon and Sam began their collaboration. The team had been working around the clock, pouring countless hours into developing a system that could revolutionize healthcare. Elon could feel the pressure mounting with every passing day. Every step they took brought them closer to an unprecedented leap in medical technology. But there was still so much left to do, and a sense of urgency hung in the air. Today was a pivotal day. The first major test of their medical technology was about to begin. Sam, now becoming more confident in his role as a leader in this technological revolution, was sitting in a sterile, state-of-the-art surgical suite, his small hands poised over the console that would control the robot surgeon he had helped design. Elon watched him from the observation room, his eyes locked on Sam's every move. "I can't believe we're actually doing this," Dr. Foster said, standing beside Elon. Her voice was a mixture of excitement and nervousness. "This is huge, Elon." Elon nodded, but didn't take his eyes off Sam. "We've trained for this. We've tested every part of the system. Sam is ready. And so are we." The surgery that was about to take place was delicate, an intricate heart procedure that would require pinpoint precision. The patient, a middle-aged man with a rare heart condition, had been chosen because of the severity of his illness. His life was in danger, and the traditional methods of surgery presented far too many risks. The hope was that the new system, designed with Sam's input and Elon's technology, could make the operation safer, more efficient, and ultimately life-saving. Sam's fingers flew over the touchpad as he synchronized the machine with his thoughts. His concentration was unwavering. The medical team in the room, standing by with their own instruments in hand, exchanged glances. They had trained to assist Sam, but for the most part, they were watching from the sidelines as the young prodigy took the lead. "Elon, I'm ready to start," Sam's voice came through the intercom. It was calm, steady, just like it had been the first time Elon had seen him operate. "You've got this, Sam," Elon said, his voice thick with anticipation. A tense silence filled the observation room as the robotic arms moved into position. Sam's eyes never left the screen in front of him. He had studied this procedure countless times. But now that the moment had arrived, the weight of what they were doing, what he was doing, began to sink in. The room fell into a hushed stillness. The robotic arms moved with surgical precision, guided by Sam's steady hands. Sam was operating not just with his hands but with his mind. His ability to manipulate the technology to match his intentions was nothing short of extraordinary. Minutes passed, each one feeling like an eternity. Elon could see the monitors shifting, indicating that the surgery was progressing. There were no signs of distress, no indication that anything was going wrong. The machine, which had been carefully crafted and tested for this moment, responded flawlessly to Sam's commands. It was as if the robot and Sam were one, moving in perfect harmony. As Sam carefully navigated the complex parts of the procedure, Elon allowed himself a moment to breathe. He had seen great things in his life: revolutionary space missions, groundbreaking innovations in AI, and the future of sustainable energy, but none of it had prepared him for this. The sight of a 7-year-old calmly saving a life through the use of technology he had helped design was awe-inspiring. Time seemed to slow as Sam moved through the final stages of the surgery. The team of surgeons who had once doubted the possibility of this working were now watching in disbelief. It was working. They were witnessing something that had never been done before. And then, the final cut, the precise moment that would make or break the operation. Sam's eyes flickered over the screen, and for a brief second, it looked as though he hesitated. Elon's heart skipped a beat. Was something wrong? But then Sam's hands were steady again, and with one final, calculated motion, the procedure was complete. The robotic arms retracted as the surgical team moved in, their own tools now used to close the incision. "Elon," Sam's voice came through the speaker again, but this time, there was a quiet confidence in it. "The surgery is done. He's stable." Elon felt a rush of relief, followed by a wave of emotion. It wasn't just that the surgery had been successful, it was the realization that they had done it. They had created a new way of thinking about medicine, a new way of performing life-saving surgeries, and Sam had been the one to bring it to life. The medical team rushed to check the patient's vitals, confirming what everyone in the room had already known. He was stable, and the surgery had been a success. The future of medicine had arrived, and it had been brought to life by a 7-year-old boy with an impossible dream. That night, as Elon sat alone in his office, reviewing the day's events, his mind was racing. The success of the surgery was a monumental step, but it was only the beginning. There was so much more to do, so much more to change. The world needed to see what Sam could do, and with Elon's help, they were going to make sure it did. But just as he was about to call it a night, his phone buzzed. It was a text from Dr. Foster. "The press is going crazy. They want to interview Sam. This is just the beginning. Are you ready to take it to the next level?" Elon smiled to himself. There was no turning back now. The world was about to meet Sam, and nothing would ever be the same. The days following the successful surgery were a blur of interviews, press releases, and phone calls from influential figures in the medical and technological communities. Sam, the young prodigy, was suddenly thrust into the global spotlight. His name appeared in every major news outlet, and the world couldn't stop talking about the 7-year-old who had just performed life-saving surgery with cutting-edge technology. Elon stood on the balcony of his office, staring out at the bustling city below. It was a clear morning, but his mind was clouded with thoughts of what had just transpired. They had done it. They had created something that would change the world. But the pressure was now even greater. They were no longer just tinkering with new ideas. They were on the verge of a revolution. Sam was now a sensation. His small frame, barely visible behind the podium, stood in stark contrast to the weight of the questions that were being thrown at him. Reporters crowded the front of the stage, their cameras flashing as they bombarded him with inquiries about his abilities, his future, and the implications of his surgical breakthrough. Elon stood in the back of the room, watching as Sam answered each question with an ease that belied his age. The boy was a natural, speaking with a clarity and confidence that many adults would envy. Sam, one reporter asked, how did you feel when you first realized you could operate on a patient? Sam paused for a moment, his big brown eyes scanning the room before he answered. I just wanted to help, he said simply, his voice steady. I wanted to make sure that people didn't have to suffer when they didn't need to. This technology can save lives. Elon couldn't help but feel a swell of pride as he watched Sam. He had been the one to give the boy a chance, but Sam had proven that he was more than capable of standing on his own. Together, they had changed the course of medical history. Later that evening, as the media frenzy died down, Elon found himself back in the lab, reviewing the data from the surgery. Dr. Foster entered the room, her face serious. Elon, we've been contacted by several organizations and investors, she began. They want to know how soon we can scale this. They want to know how soon we can get this technology out into the world. Elon leaned back in his chair, deep in thought. This was it, the moment they had been working toward. But with that opportunity came an immense responsibility. Scaling the technology meant more scrutiny, more challenges, and the potential for failure. But Elon had never been one to shy away from a challenge. We need to be strategic, he said finally, his voice resolute. We'll start by partnering with hospitals that are willing to test this technology in more real-world environments. We'll work with regulatory bodies to get approvals. But most importantly, we need to ensure that the technology is perfect before we move forward. There can't be any mistakes. Dr. Foster nodded. Understood. But with the kind of attention we're getting, it's not going to be easy to keep the spotlight on Sam and the technology without running into obstacles. Elon looked up at her, his expression hardening. We won't let anything stop us. We've only just begun. The next few weeks flew by in a haze. Sam's face appeared on news channels and magazine covers, his story inspiring millions of people around the world. While the attention was overwhelming, it also brought with it incredible opportunities. Hospitals began reaching out, eager to implement the new medical technology. Tech giants and investors saw the potential and wanted to get in on the action. But despite the excitement, Elon knew that the real work was just beginning. They had a long way to go before this technology could be fully integrated into medical practice on a global scale. And as much as Sam had proven himself, there were still skeptics. People who believed that the boy was a fluke, that technology could never replace human expertise in medicine. One morning, a major setback occurred. A prominent medical association issued a statement questioning the long-term effectiveness and safety of the technology Sam had used in the surgery. They raised concerns about the lack of long-term studies and the potential risks of relying too heavily on machines in such delicate procedures. Elon was livid when he saw the press release. He had known that there would be resistance, but this felt like a direct attack on everything they had worked for. I knew this would happen, Elon muttered to himself, pacing around his office. We've only scratched the surface, and already they're trying to tear it down. Dr. Foster entered the room, her face tense. Elon, we have to respond. We need to address these concerns head-on. We can't afford to let this go unchecked. Elon ran a hand through his hair. We'll respond, but we need more data. We need to show the world that this technology works, prove that it's safe and reliable. He turned to Dr. Foster, determination in his eyes. We'll do more trials. We'll show them that Sam's method isn't just a fluke. It's the future. The following days were a whirlwind. Sam's next set of surgeries were scheduled, but this time, they were more complex. The team worked around the clock, ensuring that every detail was flawless. Elon's focus was laser-sharp as he reviewed the procedures and oversaw every aspect of the operation. On the day of the next trial, the pressure was higher than ever. The world was watching, waiting for the next move. This time, there would be no margin for error. Elon was determined to prove that Sam and the technology could handle the weight of the world's scrutiny. And as the surgery began, it became clear that Sam was ready. His steady hands moved effortlessly, and the robotic system responded as if it had been an extension of his own body. The procedure was more complex than the last, but Sam handled it with the same calm focus. The operation was a success, another victory. As Sam walked out of the surgical suite, his face lit up with a quiet sense of accomplishment. Elon stood there, watching him with pride. This was more than just a medical breakthrough. It was a testament to what the human mind, combined with technology, could accomplish. The excitement from the successful surgeries had not died down, but with it came an intense new wave of scrutiny. The world was watching, and with every move they made, Elon and Sam were under the microscope. It wasn't just about proving that Sam could perform these surgeries. It was about convincing the world that this new medical technology could stand the test of time, safety, and reliability. One morning, Elon received a call from a prestigious medical conference. They wanted him to speak about the breakthrough technology and Sam's role in it. But there was a catch. The conference also wanted to invite several of the world's leading doctors and scientists, people who had been skeptical of Sam's abilities, questioning whether a child could truly revolutionize surgery. Elon's mind raced as he considered the potential risks and rewards. If he agreed to speak, he'd be directly facing the giants of the medical world, the very people who had dismissed the idea of a young child performing surgery. But if they didn't take the opportunity to explain their work and showcase the technology, they risked losing public trust. He turned to Dr. Foster, who was sitting across from him at the table, her brow furrowed in concentration as she reviewed data. "What do you think? Should we accept the invitation?" Elon asked, his voice laced with uncertainty. Dr. Foster looked up from her tablet. "It's a huge risk, Elon, but if we want to move forward with this, we need to stand up to the critics. The more we hide, the more people will question us. This could be our moment to prove them wrong." Elon nodded. "We've been working on this for years. Sam has proven that this technology works. I won't let anyone take that away from him." The day of the conference arrived, and the energy in the air was thick with anticipation. News outlets from around the world were present, their cameras poised to capture every word. The stage was set for a showdown. Elon Musk and Sam, the young genius, against the most respected names in the medical field. Elon stood backstage, looking at Sam, who was sitting quietly, his legs dangling off the edge of a chair. Despite his age, Sam had an air of confidence about him. He had faced down the brightest minds in the world before, and this moment would be no different. "You ready for this?" Elon asked, his voice steady, though he could feel the weight of the moment. Sam looked up at him and nodded, a small, knowing smile on his face. "Yeah, I'm ready. Let's show them." With that, they walked onto the stage. The crowd fell silent as the spotlight illuminated them. Elon took the microphone first, his voice calm but commanding. "Good morning, everyone. I'm here today with someone who, despite being just 7 years old, has already changed the face of medicine. Sam's ability to perform surgeries isn't a miracle. It's the future. And the future is now." The audience reacted with a mixture of applause and skeptical murmurs as a few prominent doctors exchanged glances. They weren't sure what to make of this. A 7-year-old performing surgeries? It was unheard of. They were used to seeing young prodigies in various fields, but never in medicine. But Elon wasn't finished. "I understand that there are many questions about Sam's age, his qualifications, and his abilities," he continued. "But let me ask you this. Why should age define a person's capability to innovate? Why should we disregard someone's genius just because they're young? Sam has demonstrated the ability to perform life-saving surgeries, and he's done so with precision and care." At that, Sam stood up, stepping forward into the spotlight. His small voice filled the room. "People have always said I'm too young to do certain things. But when I look at a problem, I don't see my age. I see a way to fix it. And that's what we did. We didn't just create a new way to save lives. We created a way for everyone to have a chance, no matter who they are or how old they are." The room was silent. The weight of his words hung in the air. Just then, a well-known surgeon from the front row stood up. Dr. Richard Hayward, a prominent critic of the technology, cleared his throat and spoke loudly, his tone skeptical. "Mr. Musk, young man, with all due respect, you're suggesting that a child can perform surgeries. But what about the risks? What about the human error that could occur? We are talking about lives here, and I'm afraid I don't see how a young boy, no matter how brilliant, can replace years of medical training and experience." The room buzzed with murmurs of agreement from those who shared Dr. Hayward's doubts. Sam, unfazed, met the doctor's gaze. "I'm not replacing doctors," he said calmly. "I'm giving them the tools they need to do their jobs better. This isn't about replacing people. It's about using technology to help us do things that we couldn't do before. I'm just a small part of that. Elon stood by Sam, his voice steady as he addressed the growing tension. We don't expect this to replace human expertise. But imagine a world where doctors, empowered by this technology, can save more lives, perform surgeries with greater precision, and do things that were once unimaginable. This is the future we're working toward. As the conversation continued, the skeptical doctors began to ask more questions. Some were still resistant, but others seemed intrigued. They couldn't deny the potential of the technology, even if they weren't fully convinced yet. In the end, the session was not a victory for anyone. It was a stalemate. Though the skeptical doctors hadn't been fully won over, they had seen Sam's abilities for themselves and acknowledged that there was something worth exploring. As the crowd slowly dispersed, Elon looked at Sam. "You did great, kid." Sam smiled up at him, his eyes sparkling with a mix of pride and excitement. "Thanks, Elon. I think we made a difference today." The aftermath of the conference was nothing short of a media storm. Headlines flooded news outlets, social media, and even academic journals. Elon Musk and Sam had successfully ignited a heated debate across the globe. While some hailed them as pioneers in medical innovation, others criticized them for daring to let a child perform surgeries. The public had split into two distinct camps, those who believed in Sam's brilliance and the future of his technology, and those who couldn't fathom a world where a child was trusted with lives in their hands. In the midst of the frenzy, a phone call came in. Elon was in his office when his assistant buzzed through. "Mr. Musk, it's Dr. Hayward. He's requesting a meeting." Elon raised an eyebrow. "Dr. Hayward? The same one who challenged us at the conference." "Yes, sir. He insists it's urgent." Elon felt a mixture of curiosity and wariness. If Dr. Hayward was calling for a meeting, it was likely to discuss a new angle on their technology. He picked up the phone. "Dr. Hayward, to what do I owe the pleasure?" Elon's voice was calm but direct, knowing full well this conversation could be difficult. Dr. Hayward's voice crackled through the speaker. "Mr. Musk, I've thought long and hard about your presentation. I must admit, there are aspects of the technology that I find compelling, but I still have my doubts, especially when it comes to its real-world application." Elon smiled slightly, anticipating this. "What do you have in mind?" "I'm proposing a joint effort," Dr. Hayward continued. "A controlled, real-world test. I want to see if Sam's technology can truly deliver under pressure. If it can, I'll publicly support it. But if it fails..." Elon cut him off, a steely edge to his voice. "We don't fail, Dr. Hayward. But if you want to put this to the test, then we'll be ready. Let's arrange it." The test was set. A high-profile medical operation would take place at one of the world's leading hospitals, with Sam as the key figure in the surgery. It wasn't just any surgery. It was a complex procedure on a patient whose life was hanging in the balance. The risks were immense, but the potential rewards were even greater. Elon and Sam arrived at the hospital a day before the scheduled surgery. They were escorted to the operating room where the procedure would take place. The sterile environment was cold, but it only added to the gravity of the situation. Sam stood tall, his small figure poised with an air of confidence that defied his age. Despite the gravity of the moment, he was calm, almost too calm, as though he had been preparing for this his entire life. Elon glanced at him. "You sure about this?" Sam nodded without hesitation. "We've done the simulations. We know what we're doing. It's just another challenge." Elon wasn't entirely sure if Sam was speaking to reassure him or himself, but he nodded back. "Okay, then. Let's make history." The medical team assembled, each one more skeptical than the last. Dr. Hayward was there, standing in the back of the room, arms crossed and a look of challenge on his face. His expression remained unreadable as he observed Sam, who was now preparing to enter the operating theater. As Sam walked toward the operating table, he looked back at Elon, who gave him a thumbs up. But Elon couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a test of technology, it was a test of trust. The surgery began. As the team worked in perfect sync, Sam's hands moved with unshakable precision, each gesture seemingly effortless. His tiny fingers hovered over the delicate instruments as if he were born to hold them. The patient's vitals remained stable, and the team slowly began to realize that Sam was guiding them, not the other way around. Elon watched from the observation room with Dr. Hayward at his side. For the first time since the surgery started, the skeptical doctor spoke up. "I have to admit, this is impressive," Dr. Hayward said, his voice low. Elon smiled, but he didn't reply. He knew that no matter how smooth things were going now, it wasn't over yet. Then, the unthinkable happened. A complication arose. The patient's heart rate began to drop rapidly. A sudden and unexpected clot formed, threatening to derail the entire procedure. Panic rippled through the room as the surgical team scrambled to contain the situation. It was a moment of chaos. Sam didn't flinch. He remained focused, calling out instructions to the team, his voice commanding despite his youth. He adjusted the instruments, pinpointing the problem, guiding the team with a steady hand. The room fell silent, watching as Sam performed what could only be described as a medical miracle. With a precise incision, he removed the clot, stabilizing the patient's heart rate in a matter of seconds. He didn't hesitate. He didn't second-guess himself. Sam was in control. When the surgery was completed, the room erupted into applause. The patient was stable, the crisis averted, and the impossible had been achieved. Dr. Hayward, who had been watching with narrowed eyes, now approached the observation room. He looked at Sam, his face unreadable. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then, Dr. Hayward extended his hand. "I was wrong, Mr. Musk," he said, his voice measured. "You were right. Sam, you've shown us what's possible." Elon watched as Sam shook the doctor's hand with a smile. It was a small victory, but it was enough. They had passed the test, an impossible challenge met with determination and skill. The world would soon know that Sam's ability wasn't just a stroke of genius. It was a glimpse into the future of medicine. The aftermath of Sam's successful surgery was nothing short of a global spectacle. News outlets were buzzing with headlines like, "7-year-old medical prodigy performs life-saving surgery, stuns the world," and, "Is this the future of medicine? A child surgeon's miracle operation." Elon Musk's name was on every front page, not just as the tech mogul behind the groundbreaking innovation, but as a champion for the future of medicine. However, with the fame came an overwhelming pressure. Sam, who had always been calm and collected, now found himself at the center of a storm. He had been thrust into the limelight in a way no one could have predicted, and the weight of the world's expectations was beginning to show. The next morning, Elon and Sam sat together in a conference room at Tesla's headquarters. The room was filled with reporters, cameras, and eager doctors. There were even a few high-ranking officials from the World Health Organization who had flown in to meet Sam. The air was thick with anticipation. Elon stood at the podium first, his voice steady. "Thank you all for being here. What we witnessed yesterday was not just a child performing surgery. It was the beginning of something much bigger. Sam represents the future, a future where technology and human intelligence combine in ways we never thought possible." He paused, glancing at Sam, who was sitting quietly beside him, looking more like a student waiting for class to start than the youngest medical genius in history. Elon's smile softened. Sam is not just a prodigy. He's a symbol of what we can accomplish when we push the boundaries of what's possible. Sam's eyes darted nervously to the reporters, who were now scribbling frantically in their notebooks. His small hands fidgeted in his lap. He wasn't used to this kind of attention. The weight of the world's expectations seemed heavier than ever. A reporter raised their hand, and Elon nodded to them. "Mr. Musk, Sam, can you tell us what inspired you to pursue such a daring approach to surgery?" Sam hesitated. Elon looked at him encouragingly, but Sam's voice barely broke through the silence. I just wanted to help," Sam finally said. His words were quiet but sincere. "I've always wanted to make a difference, and now I think I can." The room went silent, the simplicity of his words cutting through the noise of the moment. It was clear that this wasn't just about fame or technology. It was about something far more profound, a desire to make the world a better place. But not everyone was so easily convinced. As the press conference continued, Dr. Hayward, who had remained largely silent until now, stood up from his seat. His expression was serious, and there was a noticeable tension in the air. "I have to ask," Dr. Hayward said, his voice carrying authority. "How can we be sure that this technology isn't just a fluke? What safeguards are in place to ensure that Sam's abilities are not overestimated? We are dealing with people's lives here." Elon didn't flinch. "We've conducted multiple simulations and real-world tests. This is not just about Sam's talent. It's about the technology we've built to support him. We have AI systems, robotic assistants, and constant monitoring. The future of surgery is not just human skill, but human skill enhanced by technology." Dr. Hayward narrowed his eyes, clearly not satisfied. "And what happens when this technology falls into the wrong hands? A child performing surgeries? The ethical implications are enormous." Sam's eyes flicked to the floor, and for a moment, the weight of the conversation seemed to overwhelm him. Elon leaned forward, sensing the tension in the room. "I understand your concerns, Dr. Hayward," Elon said, his voice calm but firm. "But the point is not about age. It's about capability. Sam has proven that he can save lives, and the world needs to see this as a step forward, not backward." The rest of the press conference went by in a blur. Questions came fast and furious, but Elon and Sam held their ground. As they exited the room, Elon could sense Sam's discomfort. "Hey, you did great," Elon said, giving him a reassuring pat on the back. "I know it's a lot, but you handled it better than anyone could have." Sam didn't respond right away. He was still processing the questions, the doubts, the skepticism that had been thrown at him. It wasn't easy being in the spotlight, especially when you were just 7 years old. As they walked down the hall to leave the building, Sam finally spoke up. "Elon, what if I can't do it again? What if I fail?" Elon stopped in his tracks, turning to face him. He crouched down so they were eye to eye. "Sam, you're not in this alone. You have the best team behind you, and you have something that can't be taught, the heart to help people. You won't fail." Sam's eyes brightened a little, and he nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll try my best." Elon smiled. That's all anyone can ask for. That evening, the world had a new hero and a new villain. While many hailed Sam as the future of medicine, others were more skeptical, questioning whether it was ethical for such a young child to perform life-saving surgeries. Some people saw Sam's abilities as a miracle. Others saw it as a dangerous experiment that could end in tragedy. As Sam prepared for another surgery, a media storm continued to swirl around him. Elon knew this would be just the beginning. With every breakthrough came resistance, but with Sam's potential, there was no turning back. Together, they would have to face the future head-on, no matter how daunting it seemed. What do you think? Do you believe Sam is ready to handle the pressure of his newfound fame and responsibility? And do you think the world is ready to accept such groundbreaking advancements in medicine, especially when it involves someone so young? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. The phone rang, cutting through the silence of the night. Elon, who had been reviewing data on his tablet, picked it up with a sense of urgency. The call was from the hospital. Sam's next surgery was not going to be just another procedure. It was a life-or-death operation that had the potential to make or break his future. "Mr. Musk," the doctor's voice on the other end was tight. "We've got a situation. A patient's condition is critical, and we need to act fast. It's a complicated surgery, something we've never attempted before." Elon felt a sudden rush of anxiety. Sam had already performed a life-saving operation once, but this one was different. It wasn't just a child's brilliance that was on the line. It was the trust of the entire medical community. The stakes had never been higher. "I'll be there in an hour," Elon said, trying to keep his voice steady. He clicked off the phone and turned to Sam, who had been sitting across from him in the living room, his eyes focused on a medical textbook. "Sam," Elon began, his voice serious but calm. "There's an emergency. We've got a surgery scheduled, something risky. It's going to be tough. Are you up for it?" Sam looked up from the book, his face still flushed with the intensity of the previous days. The world was still buzzing with excitement and skepticism about his abilities, and now, there was no avoiding the fact that he was about to face a test unlike anything before. "I don't know," Sam admitted, his small voice tinged with uncertainty. "What if I mess up? What if it's too much for me?" Elon crouched down to his level, his expression softening. "Listen to me, Sam. You've already shown the world what you're capable of. But this isn't just about what you can do with your hands or your mind. It's about what you feel in your heart. You want to help people, right? Sam nodded slowly. Then this is your moment. You've got a team of experts to back you up, and you have something that no one else has, the courage to do what others can't. This is why we push boundaries. Sam took a deep breath, and after a moment of silence, he nodded again. Okay, let's do it. The hospital was buzzing with activity when they arrived. The team was already assembled in the operating room, a mix of doctors, nurses, and technicians, all watching Sam closely. His small stature, barely tall enough to see over the edge of the operating table, was a stark contrast to the seriousness of the moment. But he stood tall, his expression focused, determined. Elon stood by his side, watching Sam with a mix of pride and anxiety. The doctors had cleared the way for him, but he could see the doubt in their eyes. Sam was a prodigy, yes, but he was still a child. The surgery they were about to perform was fraught with complications, and the risk of failure was high. The patient on the operating table was a 45-year-old woman suffering from a rare form of heart disease that had left her in a critical state. Doctors had tried every option, but the prognosis was grim. Sam's intervention was a last-ditch effort, and the room was thick with the tension of knowing that any misstep could be fatal. Sam stepped forward, his hands shaking slightly as he reached for the surgical tools. But there was no hesitation in his eyes. He had done this before. He knew the process, the steps. But this time, it felt different. The eyes of the world were upon him. There were cameras in the room, recording every moment. The pressure was unimaginable, but Sam wasn't about to back down. He looked at Elon for reassurance. Elon gave him a small nod, a silent promise that he wasn't alone. The surgery began. Every movement was calculated, every decision a critical one. Sam guided the robotic arms with precision, aided by the AI systems that were integrated into the operating table. The room was silent, except for the soft beeping of monitors and the occasional murmurs of the medical team. Everyone was on edge, but Sam's focus never wavered. There were moments when it felt like time itself had stopped. The patient's condition fluctuated rapidly, and the risks grew higher with each passing second. But Sam remained calm. The AI assisted with real-time data, but Sam's instincts guided the entire process. He made decisions that no one expected a child his age to make, choosing techniques that even seasoned surgeons had never considered. At one point, as the surgery reached a critical stage, the patient's heart stopped beating for a few seconds. The room froze in fear. The monitors flashed a warning, and the doctors exchanged anxious glances. But Sam didn't panic. His fingers moved with practiced ease, guiding the surgical tools to restart the heart. It was an incredible feat of both skill and bravery. With a final adjustment, the heart began to beat again, and a wave of relief passed over the room. Elon's breath caught in his throat. He had known Sam was capable, but seeing him in action, handling the life-and-death situation with such calm, left him in awe. An hour later, the surgery was complete. The patient was stable, her condition improving rapidly thanks to Sam's intervention. The room erupted into applause, but Sam didn't celebrate. His hands were still trembling, his face pale. He had saved a life, but the weight of the moment was finally sinking in. Elon walked over and placed a hand on Sam's shoulder. "You did it," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "You're incredible." Sam looked up at him, a small, tired smile forming on his face. "We did it," he replied quietly. "I couldn't have done it without everyone." The news broke soon after. 7-year-old saves patient's life in high-risk surgery, a miracle or a new era in medicine? The world was stunned once again. Some were amazed, others were skeptical, but the question remained. Could this child truly change the future of medicine? As Sam and Elon left the hospital, their thoughts were filled with the enormity of what had just happened. The world had seen Sam's brilliance, but now there were even greater challenges ahead. Elon couldn't help but wonder, what would Sam do next? The following days were a whirlwind of media attention, praise, and, inevitably, scrutiny. Sam's surgery had made international headlines, but not all the reactions were positive. While many hailed him as a prodigy, Others doubted his ability and questioned whether a child should be trusted with such life-and-death responsibilities. Critics came out in droves, questioning not just Sam's qualifications, but the ethics of allowing a 7-year-old to perform complex surgeries. Elon could feel the storm brewing as he sat in his office, his eyes glued to the news outlets. Every channel was buzzing with a mix of awe and skepticism. Headlines ranged from "Medical Miracle," "7-year-old genius saves a life," to the dangers of letting children play doctor. Some voices, more cautious than others, warned of potential lawsuits and the threat to professional medical standards. The most outspoken critics were respected surgeons who had dedicated decades to their craft. They expressed concerns that Sam's intervention, while miraculous, was dangerous and unethical. No child, no matter how gifted, should be allowed to practice medicine. This sets a dangerous precedent, one doctor stated on a prominent news program. Sam had always known there would be challenges, but this was different. The weight of the backlash hit him hard. He spent hours in his room, surrounded by books, unable to focus on his studies. The once confident, driven child now struggled with doubts, questioning whether he had made the right decision by performing the surgery. Elon, watching this unravel, knew it was time for a conversation. That evening, Sam sat at the dinner table, staring at his plate, the usual spark in his eyes replaced by a shadow of uncertainty. Elon took a seat beside him, offering a warm smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Hey, you okay?" Elon asked softly. Sam shrugged, poking at his food. "I don't know. I didn't think this would happen. Everyone's saying I shouldn't have done it, that I'm too young." Elon paused, carefully choosing his words. "You knew going in that it wouldn't be easy. There will always be people who doubt you, who question everything you do. But remember, there are always two sides to a story." Sam looked up at him, his eyes filled with doubt. "But what if they're right? What if I really am just too young to do this?" Elon shook his head. "You're not too young, Sam. You're exactly who the world needs right now. You've shown that there's no limit to what someone can accomplish, regardless of age. People are scared of change, Sam. They always have been. The ones who create something new often face the hardest criticism." Sam's shoulders slumped as he let out a heavy sigh. "But what if I make a mistake? What if someone gets hurt next time?" "That's a risk we all face, Sam. Even the best doctors make mistakes, but they learn from them. And you've already shown more courage and skill than most people will in a lifetime. You have to trust yourself and trust the people around you." The conversation wasn't easy, but it helped. The next morning, Sam woke up with a renewed sense of determination. He was still just a child, but in that moment, he felt older. He had the power to change the world, but only if he could overcome the doubt that now threatened to hold him back. Meanwhile, Elon was dealing with his own challenges. The press had picked up on the criticism, and now, reporters were calling him non-stop, demanding answers. Was he really going to continue letting Sam perform surgeries? Was he going to face legal consequences for allowing a child to operate on patients? Elon knew that answering those questions would be difficult, but he also knew that there was more at stake now than just Sam's future. This wasn't just about a prodigy. It was about the future of medicine itself. If Sam's abilities were real, then it was time for the world to accept that medicine was changing. But change had never come easy. One afternoon, Elon and Sam walked through a crowded hospital corridor, the sound of hushed whispers following them as they passed. It seemed like everyone had an opinion. Some nurses offered encouraging words, while others exchanged wary glances. The tension was palpable, and it was clear that Sam's next move would be closely watched. In the midst of the uncertainty, Elon received an invitation from the most prestigious medical conference in the world. They wanted him to come and present Sam's case, an opportunity to defend his prodigy and, potentially, change the entire course of medical history. But with the backlash growing louder, Elon knew this wasn't just an invitation to speak. It was an opportunity to set the record straight. Sam stood in front of the mirror in his room, adjusting his suit jacket. He had been invited to accompany Elon to the conference, where they would address the growing concerns. The weight of what was to come was pressing down on him, but there was something else in his eyes, resolve. "Are you ready?" Elon asked, knocking lightly on the door. Sam looked up, his gaze steady. I think so. I know I've got something to prove. Elon smiled. You've already proven it, Sam. Now, you just have to show the world. At the conference, the room was filled with renowned doctors, researchers, and medical professionals from around the globe. The air was thick with anticipation, and the whispers grew louder as Elon and Sam walked onto the stage. Elon took the microphone first, his voice steady and calm. We're here today because the world needs to see that there is more to medicine than tradition. Sam is not just a child. He is a visionary. And we cannot let fear of the unknown prevent us from exploring new frontiers in healthcare. Sam stood beside him, his heart racing. But as he glanced out at the crowd, he saw something that gave him confidence. Nodding heads, understanding glances, and even a few smiles. It wasn't just his brilliance they were interested in. It was the possibility of something greater. As Elon wrapped up his speech, Sam stepped forward. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to him. For a moment, he hesitated, but then he spoke, his voice clear and steady. I don't want to be a doctor just because I'm good at it. I want to be a doctor because I want to help people. I want to make a difference. And I don't care how old I am. If I can save a life, I will. The room was still for a beat, and then, slowly, the first applause began. A few doctors stood, and soon, the entire room erupted into a standing ovation. The critics had been silenced, for now, but Sam knew this was only the beginning. There would be more challenges, more questions, and more pressure. But he was no longer afraid. Elon turned to Sam as they left the stage, a proud smile on his face. You did it. You've earned their respect. Sam smiled back, but his eyes were already set on the future. There was more to accomplish, and this was only the first step. The standing ovation at the conference was just the beginning. As Sam's story spread across social media, news outlets, and medical journals, the world's eyes turned to him, not just as a young boy, but as a symbol of something greater. A revolution in medicine, a challenge to the status quo. For many, Sam represented the future of healthcare, where age and experience could be surpassed by raw genius and unshakable determination. However, the ripple effect of his public appearance was more complicated than either Sam or Elon had anticipated. As they boarded the plane back home, they were greeted with mixed reactions from both supporters and critics. What was meant to be a moment of victory quickly turned into a media circus, with reporters crowding around them, clamoring for statements. Mr. Musk, do you really think it's ethical to allow a child to perform surgeries? One reporter asked, his camera lens aimed directly at Elon. Elon stood tall, his usual calm demeanor masking the pressure building within him. Sam is no ordinary child. He has the ability to perform at levels far beyond what most adults can. We're not discussing whether he should or shouldn't do it. We're talking about changing the way we think about talent, about intelligence. This is about progress. But the questions kept coming, and the media frenzy intensified. Despite Elon's confident responses, there were still many who weren't ready to accept the idea that someone so young could be trusted with such responsibility. Among the critics were some of the most influential figures in medicine, who argued that Sam's abilities were an anomaly, and that his success could not be replicated. Back in the quiet of their home, Sam struggled to cope with the newfound attention. He was used to being praised for his intellect, but this was different. The weight of the expectations now felt like a burden. Every time he turned on the news, there were people questioning his actions, dissecting every detail of his surgery, and debating whether he should be allowed to continue. At school, the other kids were divided. Some were in awe of him, treating him like a celebrity, while others mocked him, calling him a fake doctor, or accusing him of putting people's lives at risk. It was hard for Sam to make sense of it all. He just wanted to help people, but the world was making it seem like he had done something wrong. One afternoon, while Sam was sitting in his room, Elon knocked on the door. Hey, mind if I come in? He asked softly. Sam looked up, his face a mixture of frustration and confusion. I don't get it, Dad. Why are people so angry? I saved a life. I didn't do anything wrong. Elon sat beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Sometimes, when you do something that challenges the norm, people don't know how to react. They're scared. Change isn't easy for anyone, even when it's for the better. You've shown them a future they weren't prepared for, and that's going to take time. But what if I make a mistake next time? Sam's voice wavered, and for the first time in a long time, he felt vulnerable. What if I can't handle it? You won't be alone, Sam. You'll have me, and the best doctors in the world supporting you. We'll learn together, and we'll face those challenges head-on. But you need to believe in yourself. Despite the tension, Sam's resolve remained unshaken. The next few weeks saw an influx of offers, invitations, and opportunities, all of which tested Elon's judgment. Some were from well-known medical institutions eager to collaborate with Sam, while others came from companies looking to cash in on his newfound fame. But not all offers were welcomed with open arms. One evening, Elon received a call from a prestigious medical organization. "Mr. Musk," the voice on the other end said, "we appreciate your son's talents, but we believe the situation has gotten out of hand. We strongly advise that you reconsider allowing him to continue in surgery. It's putting not only his future at risk, but also the future of medical ethics." Elon was taken aback by the directness of the statement. "I understand your concerns, but we're not backing down. Sam is doing something extraordinary. It's time for the medical field to evolve. We cannot allow one child to redefine the standards of medicine. The risks are too great," the voice insisted. As the conversation ended, Elon stared at his phone, his thoughts a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. The backlash from some of the most established figures in medicine was undeniable. Yet, as he looked over at Sam, practicing his notes in the living room, he knew that there was no turning back. Sam had proven himself capable, and it wasn't about to be undone by fear. The following month, Sam and Elon were invited to a private meeting with a renowned group of surgeons who had seen Sam's work and were curious to learn more. Unlike the critics, these doctors were open-minded and willing to give Sam a chance to prove himself further. However, they had one condition. Sam would undergo a rigorous evaluation process, supervised by a panel of experienced professionals, before performing any more surgeries. Sam wasn't sure what to expect, but he agreed. He knew this was a crucial moment in his journey. The day of the evaluation, Elon stood by his side as they entered a state-of-the-art surgical facility. The panel of surgeons, each one more experienced than the last, watched as Sam prepared for the demonstration. There were no cameras, no media frenzy, just the quiet buzz of medical equipment and the low murmur of doctors discussing his progress. Sam felt a lump in his throat, but he pushed it down. This was his moment. He was going to show them that he was capable, that his abilities weren't just the result of luck or a fluke. The procedure went off without a hitch. Sam's hands moved with precision, his mind laser-focused on every step, from the initial incision to the final sutures. His confidence was unwavering, even under the scrutiny of the panel. They exchanged glances, impressed by the skill and calmness of the young boy. As the surgery concluded, one of the surgeons spoke up. "I have to admit, I wasn't expecting this level of competency, but you've shown me that there is potential here. You may be young, but you've got something that many of us have lost." The other surgeons nodded in agreement. "You're breaking barriers, Sam, but you've also got to be careful. Medicine isn't just about being smart. It's about being responsible." Sam smiled, feeling the weight of the world lift from his shoulders. This was the validation he needed. He wasn't just a prodigy, he was a force to be reckoned with. As Sam and Elon left the facility, Elon looked down at his son, a sense of pride filling his chest. "You did it, Sam. They see you now." "I know, Dad," Sam replied, a spark of determination in his eyes. But this is just the beginning. The medical world was still grappling with the idea that a child prodigy could perform life-saving surgeries. Sam's incredible display of skill in his last procedure had won over a select group of doctors, but the pressure was mounting. He was no longer just a boy with exceptional talent. He was a symbol of a revolution in the field of medicine, and with that came expectations no one could ignore. Elon watched Sam's transformation closely. The once carefree boy who had loved puzzles and medical books was now shouldering the weight of the world. His brilliant mind was his greatest asset, but it was also his greatest burden. Sam knew that the eyes of the world were on him, and with each success came the fear of failure. It was a crisp morning when the phone call came. The voice on the other end was calm but urgent. "Mr. Musk, we have a case that we believe is beyond the expertise of most surgeons. We need Sam's help." It's a delicate procedure that could push his skills to the limit. Elon's pulse quickened. The last time he'd been asked to bring Sam in, the procedure had gone smoothly. But this? The description in the voice on the other end was filled with warning. "What's the case?" he asked, trying to steady his thoughts. "A rare congenital heart defect, one that requires an exceptionally precise surgical approach. We need someone who can think outside the box, and Sam fits the description perfectly." Elon knew that this could be the moment that would either make or break Sam's future in the medical world. "Let me talk to him. I'll let you know." He set the phone down, his mind racing. Sam was already under enough pressure as it was. Would he be ready for something like this? Could he handle the stakes? The question wasn't just about Sam's skill. It was about his emotional resilience. Sam was sitting at the kitchen table, his head buried in a medical textbook when Elon approached. "Hey, buddy. We got a call. There's a case they want you to help with. It's serious." Sam looked up, his eyes tired but curious. "What kind of case?" "It's a heart surgery. A really delicate one. They need someone who thinks differently, and they think you're the one for it." Sam's face remained neutral, but Elon could see the wheels turning in his mind. "I can do it," Sam said after a pause, his voice steady but laced with uncertainty. "But I'm scared, Dad. What if something goes wrong? What if I can't save them?" Elon knelt down in front of Sam, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Sam, no one is ever fully prepared for the weight of something like this. But I know you have what it takes. You've faced tough challenges before, and you've come out on top. And if things get hard, you won't be alone. You have a team supporting you. And most importantly, you have the courage to try." Sam took a deep breath, nodding. "I want to do it. I want to help." Elon smiled, his pride for his son growing. "Let's get ready then." The next day, Sam and Elon flew to the medical center where the surgery would take place. As they walked through the sterile, clinical halls, Sam couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and dread. This was no ordinary surgery. It was a chance to prove to the world that he was more than just a child with a talent. He was a medical pioneer. The patient was a young woman, no older than 25, whose heart had never developed properly. Her condition had been a mystery to most doctors until the advanced imaging systems Sam had helped develop pinpointed the defect. This was an opportunity for Sam to not only show his surgical skills, but also to push the boundaries of medical technology. The surgical team was already in place when Sam arrived, the atmosphere tense but filled with quiet anticipation. As Sam scrubbed in, the chief surgeon approached him. "Sam, this is no small task. We trust you, but know that this will test everything you've learned." "I'm ready," Sam said, his voice a mix of determination and anxiety. The operating room buzzed with activity as Sam stood at the table, the patient lying unconscious in front of him. The monitors beeped rhythmically, the team members moving like clockwork. Sam took a deep breath and surveyed the situation. Every detail of the heart's anatomy was laid out in front of him, and the challenge was clear. The defect was complicated, a torn valve that required precise stitching, along with a complex graft to restore blood flow. Sam's hands moved steadily, each movement deliberate and exact. His mind, once a puzzle-solving machine, was now calculating the angles, the pressure, the exact force needed to make every incision perfect. His fingers danced with expertise, threading needles with practiced ease, while his heart raced faster than it ever had before. But as the surgery went on, complications arose. The patient's heart began to beat erratically. The graft wasn't stabilizing as expected. The tension in the room thickened. For a moment, Sam hesitated. The responsibility of saving this life was overwhelming. "Sam, what's the next step?" the chief surgeon asked, his voice steady but expectant. Sam closed his eyes for a brief moment, visualizing the heart and all the paths of blood flow that needed to be corrected. "We need to stabilize the graft with a slightly higher flow rate. If we don't, the blood won't circulate properly." The team exchanged glances, surprised at his suggestion. It was a bold move, one that was far outside conventional practice. But they trusted Sam. The room went silent as the adjustment was made. Slowly, but surely, the patient's heart rate began to stabilize. The graft started to hold, the blood flow improving. Sam's hands never faltered, his focus unbreakable. The surgery stretched on for hours, but by the end, Sam had done it. The defect was repaired. The room erupted into applause as the patient's heart continued to beat steadily on the monitor. Sam stood there, sweat dripping down his face, exhausted but exhilarated. He had done it. Later that day, Sam stood in front of the mirror, his reflection staring back at him with a new sense of maturity. He had proven not just to the world, but to himself, that his genius was not limited by his age. He wasn't just a prodigy. He was a healer, someone who could change lives in the most profound ways. Elon walked in, his face filled with pride. "You did it, Sam. You saved her." Sam smiled, though his eyes were tired. "We did it, Dad. I couldn't have done it without the team." Elon nodded, placing a hand on Sam's shoulder. "And that's the real magic, Sam. You've shown the world what happens when brilliance meets compassion." The success of Sam's surgery had sent ripples through the medical community. It was a breakthrough that no one expected from a 7-year-old. Headlines hailed him as a medical prodigy, surgical genius, and a future pioneer. But as Sam's reputation grew, so did the pressure. And with that pressure came a new set of challenges, one that Sam had not anticipated. It was late afternoon when the call came. Elon was sitting in the hospital lounge, flipping through a magazine, trying to unwind after a long day. Sam, now an unexpected celebrity, had been invited to speak at a prestigious medical conference. His presence was demanded, and the media was eager for the next great story. But the call changed everything. The voice on the other end was familiar. Dr. Patel, the chief surgeon who had worked with Sam on the last surgery. "Elon, I need to talk to you." "It's about Sam," Dr. Patel said, his voice tight with concern. "What's going on?" Elon asked, sitting up straighter. "It's complicated. There's a new case coming in, a young boy with a rare and aggressive form of cancer. The treatment is experimental, and it requires immediate surgery to remove the tumor. But the problem is that the procedure has never been done before. There are significant risks, and we don't have a proven track record with this kind of surgery." Elon felt a knot form in his stomach. "And you want Sam to perform it?" "Yes," Dr. Patel replied. "The boy's prognosis is poor without the surgery. The team believes Sam's ability to think outside the box is our best chance for success. But the risks, it's a gamble. We're pushing the limits of medical science." Elon's heart raced. He knew the stakes. A child's life was on the line, but asking Sam to take such a risk, especially given his age, was something he wasn't sure he could support. The decision weighed heavily on him. "I'll talk to Sam," Elon said, his voice steady, though his mind was clouded with uncertainty. That evening, Sam sat at the dinner table, his brow furrowed as he pushed his food around. Elon could sense the tension in the air, and he knew that Sam had already heard whispers about the upcoming surgery. The weight of the world was beginning to settle on the young boy's shoulders. "Elon," Sam said quietly, breaking the silence, "I heard them talking about the surgery, the one with the cancer. Do they really think I can do it?" Elon sighed, his heart heavy. He had wanted to protect Sam from the complexities of these decisions for as long as possible, but now it was unavoidable. "They believe in you, Sam. They believe that you can save this boy's life. But they don't know if it will work," Sam said, his voice almost a whisper. "I'm scared, Dad. What if I can't save him?" Elon reached across the table, placing a reassuring hand on Sam's. "Sam, I know you're scared. You're taking on a responsibility no one your age should have to bear. But you have a gift, and you're not alone in this. If you decide to do it, you'll have an entire team by your side, and we'll be there to support you every step of the way." Sam's eyes filled with uncertainty as he thought for a moment. But what if something goes wrong? What if I make a mistake? What if he dies because I couldn't do it? Elon felt a lump form in his throat. He had always admired Sam's maturity, but in this moment, he saw the weight of the world on his young shoulders. "Sam, no one can predict the outcome, but you've already proven that you're capable of handling the impossible. And if you don't take this risk, we may lose him anyway. Sometimes, the hardest choice is the one that can save someone's life." Sam's eyes met his father's, and for the first time, Elon saw the real burden of being a prodigy. Sam wasn't just a medical marvel. He was a child who had to make decisions that adults struggled to face. After a long pause, Sam spoke again, his voice trembling slightly. I want to try, but I don't want to let anyone down. You won't, Sam, Elon said, his voice firm. You're not alone in this, and you're not doing it alone. This is a team effort, and everyone believes in you. The next morning, Sam arrived at the hospital, his nerves a bundle of knots. As he walked into the operating room, the usual confident stride he once had seemed replaced with a cautious step. The tumor was larger than expected, and the surgery would involve delicate navigation around critical organs. No one could be sure of the outcome. The patient, a boy named Ethan, was just 6 years old. He had been diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of cancer that left his organs weakened and fragile. The doctors had been working for months to find a treatment that could save his life, but it all came down to this surgery. As Sam scrubbed in, he glanced around the room at the other doctors. They were all looking at him, waiting for him to make the first move. The pressure weighed heavily on his shoulders. Dr. Patel, standing at his side, leaned in. You're the one who can do this, Sam. Trust yourself. Trust your team. Sam nodded, but his hands were slightly trembling as he picked up the scalpel. The procedure began, and Sam's mind went into overdrive. Every incision, every stitch, every decision was critical. But as the surgery progressed, complications began to arise. Ethan's blood pressure dropped unexpectedly, and the team had to act fast to stabilize him. The surgery was becoming more complicated than anyone had anticipated. Sam's confidence wavered for the first time in a long while. He knew he couldn't do it alone. He needed the team, and they needed him to lead them. The room was filled with tension as the hours dragged on. But Sam didn't give up. He relied on the support of his team, pushing through the overwhelming sense of responsibility. Slowly but surely, they brought Ethan's heart rate back to normal. The tumor was successfully removed, and the surgery was a success. As the surgical team left the operating room, the air was thick with relief. But for Sam, the feeling was bittersweet. He had saved a life, but the emotional toll was far heavier than he had ever imagined. What would you do if you were in Sam's shoes? Would you take the risk to perform such a high-stakes surgery, knowing the risks? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. The days following Ethan's surgery were a whirlwind. News of the successful procedure spread like wildfire, and Sam's name was on the lips of everyone from medical professionals to the public. Yet, despite the accolades and praise, Sam felt a heavy weight on his young shoulders. Ethan, the boy whose life he had saved, was recovering in the ICU. His parents, who had been in the waiting room during the surgery, expressed their deep gratitude. But Sam couldn't help but feel an undercurrent of doubt in his mind. Was the surgery really a success, or had they just been lucky? He spent most of his time at the hospital, visiting Ethan and checking on his condition. The boy's recovery was slow but steady, and that brought Sam some comfort. But at night, when he lay in bed, he couldn't silence the questions that raced through his mind. What if he hadn't been able to stabilize Ethan's blood pressure? What if he had made a mistake? What if he was no longer the prodigy everyone believed him to be? The pressure of living up to expectations was beginning to take its toll. For the first time in his life, Sam felt overwhelmed. Despite everything he had accomplished, he wasn't sure if he was ready for the responsibility that came with his newfound fame. One evening, after visiting Ethan, Sam sat in the hospital's quiet waiting room, staring out the window at the city lights. Elon found him there, looking lost in thought. "Hey, Sam," Elon said, sitting down beside him. "How's Ethan?" "He's doing better," Sam replied, his voice distant, "but I feel like I'm not really sure of anything anymore." Elon watched his son for a moment, sensing that this wasn't just about the surgery. "What's going on, buddy? Talk to me." Sam looked up at Elon, his eyes filled with uncertainty. "Everyone keeps telling me how great I am, how I saved a life. But I don't feel great, Dad. I feel scared. I don't think I'm ready for all of this. What if I make a mistake? What if someone else gets hurt?" Elon took a deep breath, knowing that this was a crucial moment. He had watched Sam grow from a child with an extraordinary talent into a young boy bearing the weight of the world on his shoulders. He knew that Sam needed to hear something more than just praise. "Sam, what you did wasn't just about saving a life. It was about your courage to step up when others might have hesitated. You're not a superhero, you're a kid, and you're still learning. But you've proven that you can handle the hard things, even when they seem impossible. And that's what makes you special. Sam shook his head. But what if I fail next time? Elon placed a hand on Sam's shoulder, offering him a comforting smile. Failure is part of the process, Sam. It's not the end. It's just a lesson. And you don't have to carry it alone. You have a team, you have your family, and most importantly, you have your own instincts. Trust them. Sam looked at his father, searching for the certainty he didn't feel. I want to believe that. But what if I can't live up to everyone's expectations? What if I'm just a kid who got lucky once? Elon squeezed Sam's shoulder gently. You're not just a lucky kid. You're someone who has already done more than most people could dream of. And even if you make mistakes, we'll be here, and you'll learn from them. You're growing, Sam, and that's all anyone can ask for. Sam felt a sense of relief wash over him, but it was still difficult to shake the fear that clung to his heart. The burden of expectations, the constant need to be perfect, it all felt like a heavy weight that he couldn't quite escape. The next day, as Sam walked into the hospital for his daily checkup with Ethan, he was met with a new challenge. Dr. Patel approached him, holding a medical file in his hands. Sam, I need to talk to you about something, Dr. Patel said. His voice was calm but serious. Sam felt a twinge of anxiety. What's wrong? It's about the next case, Dr. Patel continued. We've got a patient who needs a very specific surgery, one that has never been attempted before. The complications are high, and there's a risk that we could lose the patient. We're all counting on you to take the lead. Sam felt his stomach drop. Another surgery? So soon? I'm not sure I can do it, Sam admitted, his voice small. What if I make another mistake? What if this one doesn't go well? Dr. Patel looked at him with a reassuring expression. Sam, no one expects you to be perfect. We know you're young, and we know this is a lot to ask. But we also know that you have something most of us don't, an instinct for healing, a unique way of seeing the problem that others don't. This patient needs that. Sam's heart raced as he thought about it. The pressure was overwhelming, but he knew Dr. Patel was right. He had been given a gift, and it wasn't something he could just ignore. The decision wasn't easy, but Sam finally nodded. I'll do it, he said, his voice determined. I'll give it my best shot. As Sam prepared for the surgery, he knew that this could be his biggest challenge yet. The stakes were higher than ever, and the fear of failure loomed over him like a dark cloud. But he had learned something from the last surgery, the importance of trusting his instincts and relying on the team. This time, he wasn't just carrying the weight of the world on his own. He had the support of the people around him, and he had his own courage to lean on. The day of the surgery arrived, and the air in the hospital was thick with anticipation. Sam stood outside the operating room, dressed in his scrubs, his hands trembling ever so slightly as he adjusted his mask. The weight of the situation pressed down on him. This wasn't like the previous surgery. The stakes were much higher. The patient, a young girl named Mia, had a rare heart condition, and the surgery was experimental. No one had ever attempted this kind of operation before, and the odds were stacked against them. The hospital staff was watching him closely, knowing that if he succeeded, it would be another feather in his cap. But failure? That was a risk he couldn't afford. Sam felt a bead of sweat trickle down his forehead. His father's words echoed in his mind, trust your instincts. But what if his instincts weren't enough? What if he made a mistake? What if Mia didn't make it? Dr. Patel walked up to him, offering a reassuring smile. You ready? He asked, his voice calm but filled with an undercurrent of concern. Sam took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. I don't know if I am, he admitted, but I have to try. Dr. Patel nodded. You'll do fine. Just remember, you don't have to carry this alone. You've got a team here. Lean on them when you need to. Sam nodded, trying to swallow the lump in his throat. He was the one everyone was looking to, but at that moment, he realized that it wasn't just about him. It was about the patient, the people around him, and the trust they had in him. That realization helped ground him. He walked into the operating room, his heart pounding in his chest. The team was already in place, ready for him to take the lead. Mia lay unconscious on the table, hooked up to various monitors, her small body fragile and vulnerable. "Let's do this," Sam said, his voice steady now, despite the storm of emotions inside him. The operation began. As the hours passed, Sam found himself in a rhythm. His hands moved with precision, guided by his extensive knowledge, but more than that, by his intuition. The surgery was complex, and there were moments when it felt like they were losing ground, but Sam refused to back down. There were risks at every turn, but he took each step with careful consideration, consulting with Dr. Patel and his team when necessary. At one point, a complication arose, a blood clot that threatened to derail the entire procedure. Panic flared in the room, but Sam stayed calm. He remembered the techniques Dr. Patel had taught him, techniques he had studied endlessly. He acted quickly, carefully removing the clot, praying that it wouldn't cause further damage. His heart raced, but his mind stayed clear. He was in control. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the last sutures were placed. The team stepped back, allowing Sam a moment to breathe. Mia's heart was now functioning properly. The procedure had been a success, against all odds. As Mia was wheeled out of the operating room, Sam stood still, staring at the team's work. His mind raced, but beneath the anxiety, there was a growing sense of pride. He had done it. He had faced his fear, trusted his instincts, and made it through the other side. Dr. Patel approached him, clapping him on the back. "You did it, Sam. You saved her." For the first time in a long while, Sam smiled, genuinely, without the weight of self-doubt that had been holding him back for so long. "We did it," he corrected, nodding toward the team. Later that evening, after Mia was stable in recovery, Sam sat in the hospital lounge, exhausted but satisfied. He had spent the day trying to process everything that had happened, and still, it didn't feel real. He had made it through the surgery, and for the first time in weeks, the anxiety he had been carrying seemed to lift. Elon found him in the lounge, a proud smile on his face. "So, how do you feel?" Sam looked up at his father, his eyes still wide from the experience. "I feel like I just climbed a mountain, and I'm standing on top of it." Elon chuckled. "That's because you just did. But remember, it's not the mountain that matters. It's what you learn from climbing it." Sam nodded. "I learned a lot today. About myself, about trust, and about what it really means to be a doctor." Elon sat down beside him, his expression turning serious. "You've got a gift, Sam. But with that gift comes responsibility. You don't just have to save lives. You also have to keep learning, keep growing, and keep being humble. You don't have to have all the answers. And you don't have to do it alone." Sam felt the weight of his father's words settle in. "I'm starting to understand that," he said quietly. "I don't have to be perfect. I just have to do my best. And I can't do it by myself." Elon smiled and put his arm around his son. "Exactly. And I'll always be here to help you, no matter what." The next few days were a blur of recovery for Mia, and media outlets were abuzz with the news of Sam's success. People hailed him as a medical prodigy, but Sam knew the real test wasn't in the praise. It was in the lessons he had learned, the trust he had gained, and the understanding that he didn't have to bear the weight of the world on his shoulders alone. His father's advice echoed in his mind as he prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead. It's not about being perfect. It's about growing, learning, and trusting the people around you. And as Sam walked through the halls of the hospital, he knew that no matter what came next, he was ready. Sam's life had changed overnight. After the successful surgery, media outlets hailed him as a medical genius, a prodigy who had performed a groundbreaking procedure at only 7 years old. People were fascinated by his story, and everyone wanted a piece of him. Interviews, photo shoots, and endless requests from hospitals and medical institutions poured in. But beneath the glittering praise, Sam felt the weight of expectations pressing down on him. The following morning, Sam sat at the breakfast table, trying to focus on his cereal, but his mind kept wandering to the overwhelming pressure that was building up. His phone, which had been silent for days, buzzed constantly now. The flashing screen displayed a long list of notifications, calls, messages, emails, all demanding his attention. "Hey, Sam," his father's voice broke through his thoughts. Elon sat across from him, watching him closely. "How are you feeling?" Sam glanced up at his father, trying to muster a smile. "Tired," he admitted, his voice quiet. "It's a lot." Elon nodded, understanding. "I can imagine. This is all new, right?" Sam nodded again, picking at his food. "I don't know what to do with all this attention. I didn't ask for it. I just wanted to help Mia." Elon leaned forward, his gaze thoughtful. "You're not alone in this. And while you didn't ask for the attention, you can't ignore it either. But remember, fame doesn't change who you are. You still have to focus on why you do what you do." Sam's eyes flickered with uncertainty. "But what if I fail? What if I can't live up to everyone's expectations?" Elon smiled, his voice gentle but firm. "You don't have to live up to anyone's expectations, Sam. You only need to live up to your own. You're young, and you're still learning. It's okay to make mistakes. Just remember why you're doing this in the first place. For the people who need help, don't get distracted by the noise." Sam took a deep breath, feeling a small sense of relief. His father's words always had a way of calming him. But even with that reassurance, the pressure was mounting. He wasn't just a kid anymore. He was a symbol of hope for many people, and that terrified him. The next day, Sam and Elon walked into the hospital for what should have been a routine checkup. But the moment they entered the lobby, Sam felt the eyes of the staff on him. Whispers filled the air. Some people were excited, others were curious, but there was a noticeable distance in the way people treated him now. He wasn't just Sam anymore. He was the Prodigy. It felt strange, almost uncomfortable. As they passed through the hallways, Sam noticed a group of medical students huddled together, talking excitedly. One of them caught sight of him and whispered to the others, pointing towards Sam. It wasn't the admiration that bothered him. It was the sense of being watched, like he was no longer just a child, but a subject of study. "Hey, Sam," a familiar voice called out. It was Dr. Patel, the surgeon who had assisted him in the operation. She waved him over, her smile bright. "How are you holding up?" she asked, her tone warm and welcoming. Sam shrugged, offering a half-smile. "I'm okay, I guess. Just a lot going on." Dr. Patel nodded in understanding. "I can imagine. But you handled the surgery like a pro. Don't let this fame thing distract you. Keep your focus, and everything else will fall into place." Elon placed a reassuring hand on Sam's shoulder. "That's the plan," he said. "Right, Sam?" Sam nodded, though his thoughts were far from calm. As they walked through the hospital, the pressure seemed to grow heavier, and for the first time since the surgery, he questioned whether he was truly ready for everything that was happening. Back at home, Sam retreated to his room, seeking solace in the quiet. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the wall, his mind racing with all the responsibilities now weighing on his young shoulders. He hadn't asked for any of this. He just wanted to be a kid. But the world had other plans for him. As he sat in silence, his phone buzzed again, and he reluctantly reached for it. The message was from Dr. Patel. "The media is asking for an exclusive interview with you. They want you to talk about the surgery. Are you interested?" Sam's heart sank. An interview? He didn't know if he could handle it. He wasn't sure if he wanted to. But as he thought about it, another message popped up from his father. "It's your decision, Sam. Take your time. We'll be here to support you no matter what." Sam felt his throat tighten. His father always knew how to make him feel better. He couldn't ignore the growing sense of responsibility. He had helped someone, and now others were asking for him to speak about it. But how could he speak when he felt like everything was moving too fast? That evening, Elon found Sam sitting on the couch, staring out the window. The light from the street lamps cast a soft glow across the room. Elon sat down beside him, watching his son with a mixture of concern and pride. "You okay?" Elon asked gently. Sam didn't immediately respond. Instead, he looked up at his father with wide eyes. "I'm not sure I'm ready for all this. I don't know if I can do it." Elon placed a hand on Sam's shoulder, his voice full of warmth. "Sam, you don't have to have all the answers right now. You're still growing, still figuring things out. This is a journey, not a destination. You've already done something incredible. Don't let the pressure of the world make you forget that." Sam's eyes softened. "But I'm scared, Dad. What if I mess up? What if I let everyone down?" Elon smiled reassuringly. You won't. But even if you do, that's okay. You learn from mistakes. That's how you grow. Just keep being true to yourself, and everything else will follow. For the first time in days, Sam felt a sense of calm wash over him. Maybe he wasn't ready for the world to be watching him, but he knew one thing for sure. He had his father's support, and that was all he needed to face whatever came next. The next morning, Sam sat on the edge of his bed, his phone in hand, staring at the blinking cursor on the screen. The media had been relentless, sending messages, calling, and emailing him every few minutes. They all wanted his story. His phone buzzed again. This time it was a call from Dr. Patel. Sam, it's Dr. Patel. I know you've been thinking about the interview. Have you decided yet? She asked, her voice warm but tinged with concern. Sam hesitated, staring at the message from her on his screen. Exclusive interview request. Share your story with the world. A chance to inspire millions. He could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on him. On one hand, the world was offering him a platform to make a difference. On the other, he wasn't sure if he was ready for all the attention. I don't know, Dr. Patel, he said, his voice small. I'm not sure if I can do it. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Dr. Patel spoke softly. Sam, no one is expecting you to have all the answers. The interview is about your story, about the journey that led you to help someone. It's not about being perfect. It's about sharing your truth. Her words struck a chord with Sam. He had always been taught that it was okay to make mistakes, that being honest and authentic was more important than pretending to have everything figured out. But even so, the fear lingered. Could he really go out there and speak to millions of people? What if he messed up? Elon appeared in the doorway, his presence grounding. He had been quiet all morning, sensing his son's internal struggle. Everything okay, Sam? He asked, leaning against the doorframe. Sam looked up at him, his heart heavy with uncertainty. I don't know if I can do it, Dad. The whole world is watching now. What if I say the wrong thing? Elon walked over and sat beside him on the bed, placing a hand on Sam's shoulder. You don't have to be perfect, Sam. You don't even have to be anything other than yourself. The world wants to hear from you because of what you've already done. They don't want a superhero. They want to hear your story, the real story. And that's enough. Sam thought about his dad's words. He had been told so many times that he was a hero, that he was destined for greatness. But the truth was, he didn't feel like a hero. He was just a kid who had done what he thought was right. Maybe, just maybe, sharing that story could help others see that they didn't need to be perfect to make a difference. Okay, Sam said after a long pause. I'll do it, but I'm scared. Elon smiled, squeezing his son's shoulder. That's okay. Being scared is part of the journey. And remember, no matter what happens, you've already done something incredible. The world needs to hear your voice. The day of the interview arrived quickly. Sam was seated in a studio, the bright lights blinding, and a camera crew bustling around. Dr. Patel was beside him, offering a comforting smile, while Elon stood nearby, watching with quiet support. Sam could feel his heart racing. His palms were sweaty, and he couldn't stop fidgeting in the chair. The producer gave him a reassuring nod, signaling that the interview was about to begin. Ready? The host, a seasoned journalist, asked with a smile. Sam nodded, swallowing his nerves. He had been coached on what to say, but nothing could prepare him for the reality of sitting in front of cameras with millions of people watching. The host began with some introductory questions, easing Sam into the conversation. But soon, the questions turned to the heart of the matter. So, Sam, the host said, leaning forward, you performed a life-saving surgery at just 7 years old. How did that feel? Were you nervous? Sam's mind went blank for a moment. The bright lights seemed to close in on him, and for a split second, he regretted saying yes. But then he thought of his father's words and the weight of his own journey. He took a deep breath and answered. It was scary, Sam admitted. I didn't know if I was doing it right, but I knew I had to try. The person on that table needed help, and that's all that mattered. The host smiled warmly. That's incredible, Sam. And you've become an inspiration to so many people. What would you say to others who are afraid to take risks, who are worried they might fail? Sam paused, thinking carefully. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about everyone who looked up to him. I'd say, don't be afraid to try. You don't have to be perfect. Just do what you can, and if you make mistakes, that's okay. You learn from them. You keep going. The host nodded, clearly moved by Sam's words. Such wise advice for someone so young. As the interview went on, Sam began to feel more at ease. The nerves were still there, but they didn't feel as overpowering anymore. He was speaking from his heart, and that felt like enough. When the interview finally ended, Sam felt a wave of relief wash over him. It hadn't been as bad as he'd feared. In fact, it felt good. Maybe the world wasn't so scary after all. Maybe this was what he was meant to do. Use his voice to make a difference. As they left the studio, Elon pulled Sam into a quick hug. You did great, he said, pride evident in his voice. I'm so proud of you. Sam smiled, a weight lifting from his shoulders. Thanks, Dad. I feel better now. Like I did the right thing. You did, Elon replied. And you'll keep doing the right thing, no matter what comes next. Sam glanced up at the sky, feeling the weight of the world no longer so heavy on his shoulders. Maybe he wasn't just a kid anymore. But that didn't mean he couldn't still be himself. After the interview aired, everything changed. Sam's face was everywhere, on television, social media, even the front pages of newspapers. People praised his courage, his intelligence, and his humility. But as the admiration grew, so did the pressure. Sam felt like he was under a magnifying glass, every move scrutinized, every word analyzed. The first sign of trouble came when he was walking home from school one afternoon. A group of kids from his class gathered around him, their eyes wide with curiosity, but also something else, envy. One of them, Max, who had always been friendly with Sam, stepped forward. Hey, Sam, Max said, his voice laced with an uncomfortable tension. You're like a hero now, huh? Sam nodded, not sure what to say. He had never thought of himself as a hero, just a kid who had helped save someone's life. But now, everyone seemed to expect him to live up to that label. Max continued, his voice dripping with sarcasm. So, when do we get to see you do surgery on the football field? Maybe perform brain surgery on Coach Jenkins next? The laughter that followed stung. Sam didn't respond, but the smile on his face was long gone. Instead, he walked past the group, his head down, feeling the weight of their words. At home that evening, Elon noticed the change in Sam. His son had always been confident and full of life, but now there was a new heaviness to him. Sam had barely touched his dinner and seemed lost in thought. Sam, Elon began, his voice gentle. What's going on? You've been quiet all day. Sam looked up, his eyes a little too bright, like he was holding back tears. They don't get it, Dad, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Everyone's acting like I'm some kind of super kid, but I'm just me. I don't know how to be what they want me to be. Elon sat down next to Sam, putting a hand on his shoulder. I get it, buddy. It's a lot of pressure, isn't it? Sam nodded, swallowing hard. I didn't ask for this. I just did what felt right. I know, Elon said softly. You didn't ask for any of this. And you don't have to be anyone other than who you are. The world can be a lot, and sometimes people put expectations on you that aren't fair. But you don't have to carry all of that. Sam looked up at his dad, his eyes filled with doubt. What if I let everyone down? What if I mess up? Elon smiled, his gaze steady. Messing up is part of being human, Sam. Don't ever forget that. It's okay to not have all the answers, and it's okay to make mistakes. The most important thing is to stay true to yourself, no matter what anyone else thinks. Sam felt a weight lift off his shoulders as he heard his dad's words. Maybe he didn't have to be perfect. Maybe it was okay to just be himself. The next morning, Sam faced a different challenge. A media outlet had reached out with an offer, an even bigger platform, a chance to be a guest on a national talk show. It was a huge opportunity, but it felt like another weight pressing down on him. His phone buzzed with messages, and his inbox was flooded with requests. Dr. Patel called, sensing his hesitation. Sam, I know you're feeling overwhelmed, but this is a chance to reach so many more people, to inspire them, to show them that even a young kid like you can make a difference. Sam wanted to say yes, He wanted to do good, to use his voice to help others. But as the days passed, he began to feel trapped in the expectations that surrounded him. Later that week, Elon took Sam out for a walk to clear his head. As they strolled through the park, Sam asked, "Dad, do you ever feel like you don't know who you are anymore? Like you're living up to other people's idea of you?" Elon looked at him thoughtfully, then nodded. "Yeah, I do. It happens to everyone, Sam. When you do something that gets a lot of attention, people start to see you in ways that aren't always true. They forget that you're just a person, not a symbol or a superhero. But how do you deal with it?" Sam asked, his voice quiet. "You remember who you are," Elon said with a grin. "You remember your values, your family, the things that make you feel grounded. And you don't let anyone's expectations define you. You don't let them decide what kind of person you're going to be." Sam looked up at his dad, the fog in his mind beginning to clear. Maybe it wasn't about being the perfect hero. Maybe it was about being true to himself. That night, Sam sat on the edge of his bed, deep in thought. The interview requests, the pressure, the expectations, they had all become too much. But in his heart, he knew that he had to make a choice. He didn't have to be anyone but who he was. He picked up his phone, scrolling through the messages. The talk show invitation was there, but so were messages from people who had been touched by his story, people who had shared their own struggles, their own journeys of overcoming fear and doubt. Sam realized that maybe his story could inspire them, not because he was perfect, but because he was real. He tapped a reply to Dr. Patel. "I've made my decision. I'll do the interview. But this time, it's about telling the truth, about being honest about what it's like to feel scared, and showing that you don't have to be perfect to make a difference." Sam sat back, the weight in his chest lifting. He wasn't going to try to be someone else anymore. He was going to be himself, flaws and all. And maybe that was enough. What do you think of Sam's decision to embrace his true self despite the pressure? Have you ever felt like people had expectations of you that weren't fair? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. The day of the talk show finally arrived, and Sam could barely contain his nerves. His decision to speak out, to be real and honest about his journey, had felt empowering, but now, as the bright studio lights glared down on him, all of his doubts crept back. The anticipation of being in front of millions of viewers was almost overwhelming. He wasn't just Sam anymore. He was the kid who saved lives, the kid who was now a symbol of hope, and that was a lot of pressure. Elon had been by his side every step of the way, offering encouragement and advice. But today, Sam felt like he was walking a tightrope between who he was and what everyone else expected him to be. As they arrived at the studio, the air was thick with excitement. The crew buzzed around, preparing the stage, testing microphones, and adjusting the lights. Sam could hear the hum of voices in the background, and his heart raced. He clutched his dad's hand as they made their way to the backstage area. "You're going to be amazing, buddy," Elon said with a smile, though his eyes showed a hint of concern. "Just remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being honest. People want to hear your real story." Sam nodded, trying to calm his racing thoughts. He had practiced what he was going to say, but the moment of truth was always different. He took a deep breath, focusing on the task ahead. Soon enough, it was time. A stagehand gave him a gentle nudge, signaling that he was about to go on. The host, a well-known talk show personality, smiled warmly as Sam walked toward the chair. The audience applauded, and Sam felt his chest tighten. He sat down, adjusting the mic, his palms sweaty. The host, Sarah Lynn, leaned forward with an eager expression. "So, Sam," she began, her voice kind and welcoming, "you've become quite the hero, haven't you? Just a few months ago, you were a regular 7-year-old kid, and now, you've saved lives and inspired millions. How does it feel?" Sam swallowed hard, trying to steady his breath. He'd been asked this question countless times already, but it felt different this time. This time, he wasn't going to give the answer people expected. He wasn't going to be just the hero everyone wanted him to be. "It feels overwhelming," Sam said, his voice steady but honest. "I never asked for this. I never wanted to be a hero or a symbol. I just wanted to help. I guess when you do something big, people want you to be perfect. But I'm just me. And sometimes, it's hard to live up to that. The audience fell silent, as though they weren't sure how to react. Sam could feel their eyes on him, some filled with admiration, others perhaps disappointment, but he didn't mind. This was the truth, and it felt good to finally say it out loud. Sarah gave him a nod, her expression thoughtful. It's brave of you to say that, Sam. So many people would try to hide their struggles or put on a facade. But you're showing the world that it's okay to not have all the answers. To be human. Sam's heart fluttered with relief. She got it. The truth mattered more than any label, any expectation. Tell us about the moment you made the decision to help that woman, Sarah continued. What was going through your mind at the time? Sam leaned back in his chair, the memories flooding back. I didn't think about it much. I saw she needed help, and I just did what felt right. I didn't even know if I could do it, but I had to try. It wasn't about being brave, it was just about doing the right thing. The audience seemed to relax, their tension easing as Sam spoke with raw honesty. This wasn't the polished, rehearsed version of himself they had expected. This was the real Sam, the 7-year-old who was still learning, still growing, still figuring things out. As the interview went on, Sam shared more about his life, his family, and how he had struggled with the sudden fame. He talked about the kindness of his parents, especially his dad, who had always encouraged him to stay grounded. And he spoke about how important it was to be honest, to not try to be someone else just because the world demanded it. After the interview, as they left the studio, Sam felt a sense of relief wash over him. He had done it. He had been honest, and in doing so, he had found his voice. The pressure, the expectations, they were still there, but they didn't define him anymore. Elon clapped him on the back as they walked to the car. I'm proud of you, Sam, he said. You stayed true to yourself, and that's all anyone can ever ask of you. Sam smiled up at his dad, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. Thanks, Dad. I think I'm starting to understand what you meant. As they drove home, Sam's phone buzzed with messages. The media had already picked up on his honesty, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. People were praising him for his courage, for being so open about his vulnerabilities. Some even said that Sam's message of honesty and authenticity was the real inspiration. The next few days brought more interviews, more press coverage, but Sam felt ready for it. He had faced the pressure, faced the spotlight, and had come out stronger for it. He wasn't just the kid who saved a life anymore. He was Sam, a real person with real feelings, and that was enough. The days following the talk show were a whirlwind of attention. Sam's story had captured hearts across the nation. The clip of his honest interview went viral, garnering millions of views within hours. People were drawn to his humility, his sincerity. Celebrities, medical professionals, and even public figures reached out to him, expressing admiration and support. But with this newfound attention came a whole new set of challenges. Sam had always been a quiet, private boy who preferred the company of his family and a few close friends. Now, he was thrust into a spotlight that felt both thrilling and suffocating. Everywhere he went, cameras followed, and people recognized him on the street. It was overwhelming, and though his family did their best to shield him from the media frenzy, it wasn't always possible. One evening, after a long day of interviews and meetings, Sam sat on the balcony of their apartment, staring out at the city skyline. His father, Elon, joined him, sitting down beside him with a sigh. The two of them shared a quiet moment, both looking at the same view but with very different thoughts. You okay? Elon asked, breaking the silence. Sam hesitated before responding, his voice quiet. I don't know. It's all too much sometimes. Everyone looks at me like I'm some kind of superhero, but I don't feel like one. I just helped someone because I had to, but now it's like the whole world is watching me. Elon smiled softly, placing a reassuring hand on his son's shoulder. I get it. It's hard when you're put on a pedestal, especially when all you did was act from the heart. But you've got to remember, Sam, you don't have to be perfect. You're already doing something amazing just by being yourself. Sam looked at his dad, feeling a small sense of comfort in his words. But what if I mess up? What if I say or do something wrong? Elon chuckled lightly. You'll mess up. You're human. But that's okay. The world doesn't need you to be perfect, Sam. It just needs you to keep doing what feels right. And as long as you stay true to who you are, you'll always find your way. Sam nodded, still unsure, but feeling a little better. Thanks, Dad. The next day, an unexpected call came in. It was from the head of a major hospital in the city, inviting Sam and his family to attend a medical symposium. They wanted to honor him for his incredible bravery, and there were talks of offering him a role as a young ambassador for medical research and innovation. The idea of being involved in the medical community on such a large scale both excited and terrified Sam. He had always admired doctors, but the thought of being associated with them in such a professional capacity seemed daunting. He wasn't a doctor. He was just a 7-year-old who happened to do something right in the moment. Yet, there was no denying the impact of his actions, and the idea of continuing to inspire others began to sink in. At the symposium, the atmosphere was filled with professionals, many of whom had made groundbreaking strides in the medical field. The event was grand, with towering screens showing the latest research and the latest technological advancements in medicine. Sam's heart raced as they walked into the main hall, where a sea of people applauded them as they entered. The host of the event, a renowned surgeon, greeted Sam and his family with a warm handshake. "It's an honor to have you here, Sam," she said. "You've done more for medicine than most adults ever will. You've given us all a reminder of what it means to help one another." Sam blushed, feeling out of place among the doctors and researchers who had dedicated their lives to medicine. He felt like he didn't belong there, like he hadn't earned the praise they were giving him. But as the ceremony continued, Sam found himself listening more closely to the speeches and presentations. He began to understand the power of medical advancements, the importance of research, and how, in some ways, his quick thinking had contributed to something much larger than himself. It wasn't about being a hero. It was about making a difference in the world. After the speeches, they held a panel discussion, where Sam was invited to speak. His dad squeezed his hand gently. "Just say what's on your mind, Sam. You've already shown that your truth is the most powerful thing you have." When it was Sam's turn, he took a deep breath and walked to the stage. The lights were bright, and he could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on him. But this time, he wasn't nervous. He had something to say, and he knew it was important. "I don't think I'm special because I helped that lady," Sam began, looking out at the crowd. "I think I'm special because I did something that anyone could do if they just cared enough. I didn't have to be a doctor. I just had to be someone who wanted to help." The audience was silent for a moment, processing his words. Then, a round of applause erupted, echoing through the hall. Sam smiled shyly, feeling a sense of pride swell inside him. He had said exactly what he wanted to say. No pretense, no expectations. As they left the symposium that day, Sam's thoughts were racing. He realized that being in the spotlight didn't have to mean changing who he was. He didn't have to be a superhero or a doctor to make a difference. All he had to do was stay true to himself and his desire to help others. That night, as he lay in bed, Sam thought about all the lives he had touched and how much more he could do. He wasn't sure where his journey would take him, but one thing was certain. He was ready for whatever came next. And with his family by his side, he knew he could handle anything. Sam's life was changing faster than he could keep up. What had started as a spontaneous act of kindness had now evolved into something far bigger than he ever anticipated. Invitations from prestigious medical organizations, offers for speaking engagements, and even requests to collaborate on research projects flooded in. Sam's days were packed, and with every new opportunity came an undeniable pressure to live up to the expectations of others. It wasn't just the media attention that weighed on him, though. It was the feeling of responsibility, the thought that his actions had sparked a movement and that now he was expected to be a role model. A young boy who once spent his days playing with building blocks and reading medical journals in the quiet of his room was now at the center of a public storm. One particular day, after a long day of interviews, Sam sat in the back seat of the family car, his mind swirling. Elon sat next to him, glancing over at him from time to time as they navigated the busy streets. The car was filled with a tense silence, broken only by the hum of the engine. "You okay, buddy?" Elon asked after a few moments. His voice was soft, but Sam could hear the concern underneath. Sam hesitated, his fingers tapping nervously on the armrest. He was exhausted, physically and mentally, and the weight of everything seemed to be catching up with him. I don't know, Dad. I feel like I'm not doing enough. Everyone expects so much from me. I'm just me. Elon's expression softened, his eyes meeting Sam's in the rearview mirror. I know it feels like a lot right now, but you've already done something incredible. You helped someone when no one else could. You didn't plan for any of this. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. Sam nodded, but the doubts still lingered. He knew his father was right. He had done something incredible, but that didn't stop him from wondering if he could keep up with the new life he had been thrust into. The next morning, the pressure hit a peak. Sam was scheduled to speak at a high-profile medical conference, where some of the most influential minds in the field would be in attendance. He had agreed to speak about his experience helping the patient, but as the event drew closer, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was about to make a huge mistake. The day before the conference, Sam locked himself in his room, surrounded by his favorite books, as though the familiar stories would offer him some comfort. But even the comforting pages of his medical textbooks couldn't calm his nerves. Elon knocked on the door, then entered without waiting for a response. He sat down beside Sam on the bed, looking at him with gentle eyes. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. Sam looked up at his dad, his mind a tangled mess of conflicting thoughts. But I said I would, he replied quietly. Everyone expects me to speak. They think I'm some kind of expert now. Elon smiled softly, his voice steady. Sam, you're already an expert at one thing, the ability to help others. You've already proven that. And if you decide you don't want to speak tomorrow, that's okay too. But I want you to remember that it's your choice. No one can force you to do something you're not ready for. Sam felt the tightness in his chest loosen a bit. His dad was right. He didn't have to do anything he wasn't comfortable with. He could still help people, still make a difference, without all the pressure. The world didn't need a perfect version of Sam. It just needed him, as he was. The night before the conference, Sam fell asleep with a sense of peace he hadn't felt in days. He knew he had the strength to handle whatever came his way. And, more importantly, he knew that his value wasn't defined by his public appearances or the expectations others had for him. The next day, Sam stood backstage at the conference, nervously adjusting his tie. His family was with him, offering quiet support, but he couldn't help the racing thoughts in his head. As his name was called, he stepped onto the stage, greeted by the faces of hundreds of professionals eager to hear his story. For a moment, Sam hesitated. He looked out at the crowd, feeling a sense of isolation in the sea of adults. Then he took a deep breath and spoke. Hi, everyone. I'm Sam. I guess you probably know why I'm here. But I'm not here to tell you how to save lives or cure diseases. I'm just here to share what happened that day when I helped someone. Because I think that, in medicine, it's not just about the science or the knowledge. It's about remembering that we're all human, and we all need help sometimes. Sam paused, letting his words sink in. The room was silent as they absorbed his message. I didn't become a doctor overnight, and I'm not here to replace the doctors who work hard every day. But I think we all have the ability to help, even if it's just by being there for someone when they need us. That's what I learned that day. The crowd sat in stunned silence for a moment, and then, as if they had been waiting for permission, they erupted into applause. Sam's heart swelled with emotion. The pressure had melted away. He had said what was true for him, and that was enough. As he stepped off the stage, Elon was waiting for him with a proud smile. You did it, Sam. You did exactly what you needed to do. Sam looked up at his dad, his face beaming with relief. I think I'm going to be okay, he said, the weight of the world finally lifting from his shoulders. After his speech at the conference, Sam's life seemed to take on a new direction. What had once felt like a whirlwind of expectations and pressure now felt more like a gentle breeze, still present but no longer overwhelming. The feedback from the conference was overwhelming, with experts and ordinary people alike praising his wisdom and maturity beyond his years. He had spoken from the heart, and it had resonated with those who heard him. But as the weeks passed, Sam realized that his journey was far from over. He was no longer just a child prodigy. He was becoming a symbol of hope. The ripple effect of his actions began to spread across the medical community and beyond. He started receiving messages from people all over the world, doctors, patients, and families, thanking him for his courage, for his honesty, and for his unwavering belief that anyone could make a difference. It was humbling, but it also came with its own set of challenges. People were looking to him for guidance, and Sam felt the weight of their expectations settling on his shoulders once again. One evening, as he sat at the dinner table with his family, Sam couldn't help but voice the feelings that had been building inside him. "I don't know if I can keep up with all of this," Sam said, pushing his food around on his plate. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't choose to be the face of some movement." Elon, who had been listening intently, set his fork down and looked at Sam with understanding. "I know it feels overwhelming," he said gently, "but remember that you didn't choose this. It came to you because you were in the right place at the right time. You were kind enough to help someone when they needed it most. That's why people are drawn to you. But you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders." Sam looked up at his dad, searching for answers. "Then what am I supposed to do? I want to help, but I don't know how. Everyone keeps asking for more." Elon smiled, his voice filled with warmth. "The best thing you can do is stay true to who you are. You don't have to solve every problem in the world. Just take one step at a time, and remember that even small acts of kindness can create big changes." Sam nodded slowly, absorbing his father's words. It was the reassurance he needed, reminding him that he didn't have to carry the weight of the world on his young shoulders. The world would be changed not by one person alone, but by all the people working together, each doing their part. The next morning, Sam woke up to an unexpected phone call. It was from Dr. Avery, the renowned surgeon who had been instrumental in the recovery of the patient Sam had helped. The news she shared was startling. "Sam, there's a medical journal that's interested in writing a feature on you," she said, her voice filled with excitement. "They want to cover your story, your journey, your impact on the medical community. This could really change things for you." Sam felt a mix of excitement and dread. "I don't know, Dr. Avery," he replied hesitantly. "It sounds like a lot." "I understand how you feel," she said, "but this could be your chance to reach even more people. You've inspired so many already, and this article could help you do even more good." As Sam hung up the phone, he felt a sense of uncertainty wash over him. The thought of being in the spotlight again made him uneasy, but the idea of helping even more people also intrigued him. Later that day, as he sat in his room, deep in thought, a message came through on his phone. It was from Sarah, one of his close friends who had supported him through the entire ordeal. "You okay?" the message read. "I've been seeing all the stuff about you online. You're amazing, Sam, but I can see you're struggling with all the attention." Sam smiled at the message, grateful for Sarah's understanding. He typed back, "It's hard, you know? I want to help, but sometimes it feels like everyone's expectations are too much." Within moments, Sarah's reply appeared. "You don't have to do it alone. You've already made a huge difference. Just be yourself, and don't let the pressure get to you." Her words gave him a sense of comfort, a reminder that he didn't have to carry the weight of the world by himself. He didn't have to solve all the problems or meet every expectation. All he had to do was stay true to himself. Later that week, Sam made a decision. He would go ahead with the interview for the medical journal, but he would do it on his terms. He wouldn't try to be something he wasn't. He wouldn't try to live up to anyone's expectations except his own. The interview was scheduled for the following weekend. As the day approached, Sam prepared himself mentally. He wasn't sure what would come from it, but he knew that by staying true to who he was, he would be able to face whatever came next. The days leading up to Sam's interview with the medical journal felt like a blur. He found himself torn between excitement and apprehension. Part of him was eager to share his story with the world, to help even more people, but another part of him was overwhelmed by the pressure to meet everyone's expectations. As the day of the interview arrived, Sam woke up early, his mind racing with questions. Would he be able to convey everything he had learned? Would people understand that he wasn't some superhero, just a regular kid trying to make a difference? The weight of the world didn't rest entirely on his shoulders, but it felt like it did some days. His family noticed the tension in his posture as he sat down for breakfast. Elon, ever the calm presence, placed a reassuring hand on Sam's shoulder. "Hey, I know you're feeling nervous," Elon said, his voice soft but firm. "But remember, this isn't about being perfect. It's about telling your truth. People need to hear your story. They need to hear the truth of who you are, not some version of yourself you think they want. Sam looked at his father, searching his face for any hint of doubt, but there was none. Elon had always believed in him, even when Sam struggled to believe in himself. "I'll try," Sam said quietly, though his heart was still heavy with the unknown. The car ride to the interview felt like the longest one yet. Sam gazed out the window, watching the world pass by, his mind caught in a whirlwind of thoughts. He wasn't sure what to expect from this interview, but he knew that it was a pivotal moment in his journey. When they arrived at the office where the interview would take place, Sam took a deep breath. The building was sleek and modern, with glass walls that reflected the early morning sun. It felt intimidating, and Sam couldn't help but feel like a small fish in a very large pond. Inside, a team of journalists greeted him warmly. They introduced themselves, and Sam tried to focus on their smiles, trying to shake off the nerves that threatened to take over. "Sam, we're so glad you could join us today," one of the reporters said, leading him into a conference room. "We've been following your journey, and we're excited to hear more about what inspired you to start helping others." Sam nodded, feeling the weight of the room settle around him. He sat down at the table, the lights from the cameras flashing as the interview began. The questions came quickly, each one more probing than the last. They asked about his family, his motivations, and how he had managed to stay grounded despite the growing attention. As the interview went on, Sam felt the tension in his shoulders begin to ease. It wasn't as bad as he had imagined. The reporters weren't trying to catch him in a lie or twist his words. They were genuinely interested in what he had to say. For the first time in weeks, he felt like he was speaking from the heart. "Sam," one of the journalists asked, "what do you hope to accomplish with all of this attention? What's next for you?" Sam paused for a moment, the question weighing heavily on him. What was next? He had already accomplished so much, and yet there was still so much left to do. But he realized, in that moment, that he didn't need to have all the answers. He didn't need to know exactly where his path would lead. "I just want to keep learning," Sam said, his voice steady. "I want to keep helping, in whatever way I can. And if people can learn something from my journey, that's enough for me." The room fell silent for a moment, the weight of Sam's words hanging in the air. The reporters exchanged glances, clearly moved by his sincerity. When the interview ended, Sam felt a sense of relief. He had done it. He had spoken his truth, and now the world would know who he really was. As he left the office, he felt lighter, as if a burden had been lifted from his shoulders. As the days passed, the article was published, and Sam's words were shared with millions of people. The response was overwhelming. The medical community, the public, and even his peers reached out, expressing their admiration and gratitude. But amid all the praise, something unexpected happened. Sam began to receive letters from children all over the world. Children who, like him, had faced challenges that seemed insurmountable. They wrote to him, telling him their stories, asking for advice, and sharing their hopes. Sam read each letter carefully, feeling a deep sense of responsibility. He wasn't just a medical prodigy anymore. He had become a beacon of hope for others. One evening, as he sat at his desk reading another letter, Elon came into his room. "You know, Sam," Elon began, "you've done something incredible. You've inspired so many people, and I'm proud of you. But you've also inspired yourself. You've learned to believe in yourself, to trust your instincts. That's the real magic." Sam looked up at his father, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. For the first time in a long time, he felt a sense of peace. He wasn't trying to be anyone else. He was just Sam, doing the best he could. And that was enough. The morning after the article's release, Sam woke up to a flood of messages and phone calls. He had expected the attention, but the reality of it was overwhelming. His inbox was full of invitations for speaking engagements, medical research opportunities, and offers from organizations eager to collaborate with him. It felt like the world was finally catching up with him, and for the first time, he wasn't sure how to respond. He spent the next few hours reading through the messages, weighing each opportunity carefully. Some were from renowned medical institutions, others from tech companies interested in applying his knowledge to their projects. But there was one letter that caught his eye. It was from a small, grassroots nonprofit dedicated to providing medical care to children in underserved areas around the world. The letter was humble but heartfelt, explaining how their organization had seen Sam's story and hoped he could join them in their mission to bring medical innovation to the people who needed it most. Sam felt a tug in his chest. This wasn't a flashy opportunity, nor was it something that would put him in the spotlight. It was something quieter, more personal, but perhaps even more impactful. "Dad, can we talk?" Sam asked, his voice steady but filled with the weight of his decision. Elon looked up from his work, sensing the seriousness in Sam's tone. "Of course, son. What's on your mind?" Sam sat down beside his father, the letter from the nonprofit in his hand. "I've been getting all these amazing offers," he said, showing Elon the various letters. "But there's one here that feels different. It's from a small group that helps kids in remote areas get medical care. They're asking me to join them. They said they've seen the article and think I could make a difference." Elon took the letter and read through it thoughtfully. "I think that's incredible, Sam. It's not about fame or recognition. It's about using what you know to truly change lives. That's the essence of medicine and compassion." Sam nodded, deep in thought. "I want to do this. I want to be part of something real. But I don't know if I'm ready. What if I fail? What if I'm not enough?" Elon placed a hand on his shoulder, a quiet understanding in his eyes. "You're not alone in this, Sam. You never have been. You've already done things that most adults can only dream of. But this is about learning and growing. It's okay to be unsure, as long as you're willing to take the next step." The weight of Elon's words hung in the air, and for the first time in days, Sam felt a sense of clarity. This was his next challenge, his next chapter, and it was one that didn't require perfection or fame. It required heart, courage, and the willingness to embrace the unknown. Later that day, Sam responded to the nonprofit, agreeing to join their efforts. It wasn't a decision based on fame or recognition. It was based on something deeper. He wanted to be part of a cause that was bigger than himself, to make an impact in a way that truly mattered. In the weeks that followed, Sam traveled to several countries with the nonprofit, offering his knowledge to medical teams working in remote clinics. It wasn't easy, and the conditions were often far from ideal, but Sam felt a deep sense of fulfillment with every life he helped improve. His work didn't always make headlines, but it changed lives in ways that words couldn't capture. One evening, while in a small village in Africa, Sam sat with a group of children in a community center. They were playing a game, laughing as they tried to mimic his surgical techniques on a toy. Sam smiled, his heart full. It was a small moment, but one that made everything worth it. Back at home, Elon continued his work, but he often found himself thinking of Sam. He couldn't be prouder of his son. Sam had faced so many challenges and had always come through stronger, but it was moments like these that showed him just how much Sam had grown. It was clear to Elon now. Sam wasn't just a prodigy. He was a force for change, using his gifts to make the world a better place. And that was the legacy he would leave behind. As Sam's journey continued, it became clear that this was just the beginning. The road ahead was filled with uncertainty, but it was also filled with possibility. Sam had found his purpose, not in the accolades or the recognition, but in the lives he touched, the children he inspired, and the people he helped. And that was the most amazing result of all. What do you think about Sam's decision to join the nonprofit and work in underserved areas? Do you think it's important for young prodigies to stay grounded and make a difference in the world? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below.